Stick with me. We are starting this story with a boy getting stabbed by his sister. He thought his brother was passing him medicine, but it was actually highly concentrated acid. His father rushes over to stop it only to stomp on his chest and crush his bones. That is because Zhiyu got reincarnated straight into the family of the Demon King. His siblings always bullied him, and his mother told him to retaliate like a true demon. But Zhiyu feared doing that would only get him killed. His mother just giggles and tells him to strike first. Your father only became the supreme Demon King by slaughtering his 12 brothers. With those words, she suddenly pulls out a sharp dagger from behind and brutally drives it into his chest. If anyone ever tries to kill you, you must strike first. When he finally wakes up again, it is already the next morning. Overnight, he had managed to absorb most of the original owner Kaila's memories. Checking his body, he finds yesterday's lethal wounds are almost fully healed. His maid nearby complains that he slept much longer than usual this time. She demands that he get out of bed because family dinner is starting. Zhiyu recalls from his new memories that this sassy maid is named Lingling because the original prince was weak. Absolutely everyone looked down on him, even her. Every single time he needed to dress, Lingling would make him do it himself. Finally, he asks, "Don't my brother's servants usually dress them?" Instead, she demands he dress her, throwing all of her chores onto his shoulders. Then she just flops onto his bed to sleep. Zhiyu decides right then he must change things. But pay attention to what happens when he enters the dining room. The second he sits, Seldra kicks a dagger from beneath the table straight at him. It impales his leg and sharp, blinding pain surges through his entire body. Seldra just smiles and says, "You look a bit lifeless, so eat up." Zhiyu is furious but cannot react. If his real identity gets exposed, he will die horribly. Gritting his teeth, he just mutters understood. But as he takes the very first bite of his food, an electric shock of poison paralyzes his entire body. Watching him squirm, Tom snickers, saying this soup was made just for him. Staring at their mocking faces, Zhiyu finally accepts it. They are actual demons. They are not his family. Now I know what you are thinking. But get this world is a game he designed. He was its best map designer. He will not let them bully him in his own creation. Slowly he raises his soup bowl and hurls it right into Seldra's face, then yanks the dagger out of his leg and throws it into Tom's arm. This utterly shocks their dining father. But Zhiyu is not done. He flips the entire dining table. If you do not want to eat, then nobody eats. His siblings are completely stunned, and even his father stares in disbelief, walking out of the room. Honestly, you and I would have done the same. Stick with me. Flipping that table got him beaten half to death by his father. But he recovered almost instantly thanks to Kaila's insane legendary regeneration ability. This must be the perk of being the Demon King's son. Just as he wonders how strong this power is, Lingling announces that the combat class is starting and he needs to report immediately. Zhiyu turns around coldly. Understood. But from now on, do not order me around. This completely leaves Lingling speechless. In Kaila's memories, this class was always one of his worst nightmares, where other brutal demons constantly tormented him. They were real monsters among demons. He hoped his own sister would stop them, but she actually told them not to hold back at all. Honestly, Kaila was never weak. He was just too soft. Now watch closely, he is about to unleash this power. Once class starts, the instructor says Seldra and Tom are absent and asks who fought during the last session. A smug, red-haired kid raises his hand, claiming it was him and Zhiyu. By the rules today, they must have their second duel. Facing him on stage, the smug kid talks big. "I promise, I won't beat you to death," as both his hands ignite with dual glowing energy daggers. The whispering crowd below starts saying, "Look at him, he is going to get beaten half dead again today." They even mockingly tease Rode to go easy so he doesn't cry. Hearing this, Rode's smile grows incredibly sinister. Kaila's sad past is actually very identical to Zhiyu's previous life, always bullied and shunned by everyone. But unlike before, Kaila carries the powerful blood of the Demon King. As raw energy suddenly surges around Zhiyu, Rode takes 2 steps back. You feel that tension, right? He is totally terrified. Magic power. The crowd gasps in sheer disbelief. Rode tries to back away further, but quickly realizes he is completely pinned down by Zhiyu's pressure. Looking up, he sees Zhiyu has already closed the distance with a raised fist. With a devastating punch, Road is slammed into the ground, shattering it into a massive crater. Because it all happened in a flash, most spectators didn't even see the impact. Even the instructor stands there in utter shock. Road lies on the ground already, beaten beyond recognition. Zhiyu looks down with absolute disdain. "What were you saying earlier? Who taught you to speak to the Demon King's son like that?" Feeling Zhiyu's overwhelming power, Road begs for mercy repeatedly. Zhiyu stands up, looking down with freezing eyes. "Don't provoke me again, or you will die. A brutal death." As he walks, the others hastily back away. He stops before the teacher and asks, "Why aren't we continuing the class?" Behind him, Lingling stands completely frozen. To her, Zhiyu seems like an entirely different person. This shocking display is also watched closely by the Demon King upstairs. Meanwhile, Seldra and Tom are currently soaking in a healing bath. Seldra roars in fury. "That bastard dared to throw poison soup at me." Tom tells him to focus on healing. "We don't have Kaila's insane regeneration. Trust me, you and I are going to love seeing his next moves. All right, you and I are about to see our weak prince undergo a massive change." Earlier, when he flipped the table, he noticed something huge. For the first time, he actually saw his father smile. Hearing this, Seldra gets even more furious. Taram keeps going, saying everything is too weird. Seldra demands to know what he is planning. Taram just smiles, suggesting they call a temporary truce and deal with Kaila first. Seldra actually likes the sound of that. Soon the two brothers reach an agreement and form a pact to kill Zhiyu before he can grab their father's attention. Meanwhile, back in class, the instructor brings up a projection on screen showing the former Supreme Demon King Turku Carlton, who was once completely unmatched under the heavens. But he ended up dying in a trap, a set by the vile Heaven Guild. Ever since that tragedy, those despicable humans have been lurking around our borders, setting up their main base for an invasion. To prepare for this and help the current Demon King crush the enemy, the class must focus completely on battle training. As class ends, the students shout their combat slogans. Later, Zhiyu. Let's pause here. If our main character stays in this castle, he is as good as dead. He needs an escape plan fast. After thinking, he asks the maid behind him to ask if his father is leaving the castle in 3 days. With that confirmed, he makes his move. The castle has one major flaw. They do not have a map architect to exploit the battlefield's terrain. On the flip side, those guild bastards are taking advantage of the surrounding neglected lands to strike. So before his father sets off on the campaign, Zhiyu plans to map out this entire region. To help his father wipe them all out, he starts small by sneaking past the castle gates. But just as he finishes the map and presents it to his father, father stabs a hand straight through his chest. Pay attention, this is about to get crazy. The king demands to know what he is showing him. Zhiyu, ignoring the pain, says, "The surrounding terrain is terrible. But if they reshape the land like this, they can turn the tide instantly." Hearing this, father starts staring intensely at the map. Releasing his grip, he demands to know why Zhiyu snuck into his office. Zhiyu explains that if he had just offered to help, he would have been rejected immediately. He wanted to show a finished result. As the proud son of the great Demon King, he wants to help crush those guild bastards. Finishing his pitch, he waits silently, meeting his father's cold, piercing gaze. Standing nearby, Lingling is shaking with pure terror, wondering how he could ever dare speak to the Demon King like that. After a long pause, the king asks how long it will take. Zhiyu freezes, not quite understanding the question. The king asks again, demanding to know how many days to map the changes. Hearing this, Zhiyu holds up 5 fingers. Trust me, things are about to get wild. Let's dive into the moment our main character faces the ultimate test of survival. By then, this map is useless. Zhiyu coughs and interrupts, saying, "Not 5 days. Try 5 hours. I can finish the whole thing in just 5 hours. The Demon King stares in utter disbelief as Zhiyu proudly holds up the map. "I'll finish building before they attack in 3 days. Let me lead this project." Impressed, the Demon King actually agrees to let him take total control. With a dark smirk, he warns Zhiyu that if this plan fails, I will personally tear you and your precious map into bloody shreds. He leaves, and just as Zhiyu relaxes, a sudden violent surge racks his body. The next second cough, he literally spits out a massive pool of blood. Lingling is stunned he actually pulled it off. Zhiyu weakly raises his head. Don't just stand there staring. Get me to the infirmary. After some quick bandages, he's already back at work. True to his word, he finishes the entire design in 5 short hours. The demon army immediately starts massive construction while their mages prepare. They cast giant illusion barriers around the site, completely hiding the work. Now the enemies outside have absolutely no idea what's coming. For Zhiyu, this brings back the exact thrill of designing game maps. Meanwhile, at the Heaven Guild camp, the guildmaster Hermeson gets the report. But pay attention here. This is where the villains make a fatal mistake. Reports say the demon army is using mages to cast massive illusions. Should they launch a preemptive strike to stop the construction? Hermeson laughs it off. Those fools are way too late to save themselves. In 3 days, the elite White Tarukan squad will arrive right here. Their legendary leader has spent decades training these ruthless killers. Hermeson knows a mere 3 days of prep can't stop decades of training. The mighty Demon King is finally going down once and for all. Meanwhile, an army of crusaders marches directly toward the dark castle. A commander atop a flying dragon roars, ordering the demon's absolute destruction. Hyped up, the ground troops charge forward with terrifying superhuman speed. A red-haired warrior marvels at General Dillman's incredible leadership. I know what you're thinking. Are these guys really that tough? Let's see. Commander Srilis, are we really guaranteed to crush the Demon King? Srilis just laughs in confidence. Of course we are. We're not like those pathetic guilds. Meanwhile, back inside the castle, the Demon King meditates on his throne. He knows Kaila's map isn't a bluff, but it's still risky, and his own body is rapidly hitting its breaking limit. There is no turning back now. Tomorrow they will settle the score with the Heaven Guild, once and for all. Outside, mages work tirelessly lifting heavy stone structures into place. Massive trolls carve out building blocks. Everything is going exactly to plan. But Zhiyu still feels uneasy. This is way different from the game, because here his creations have real deadly consequences, and we are about to see them unfold. Trust me, with way more freedom than any game, all we can do is wait quietly for tomorrow's massive war. The next day, Tarukan's elite forces arrive at the front, and the guild members enthusiastically welcome them. Soon, both faction leaders complete a quick handover. After exchanging intel, Hermeson excitedly insists on launching an immediate attack on the Demon King's castle. Guilliman completely agrees with this plan, but just as everyone starts celebrating, a tiny black dot suddenly appears right in the center. Sensing immediate danger, Guilliman quickly leaps back to safety. Watch closely. The next second, that dot erupts into a massive explosion. Luckily, Guilliman's shield bearers react fast enough to protect him from any harm. Hermeson's men also shield him as the heavy dust gradually clears. A dark shadow slowly stands up. Everyone gasps. It is the Demon King. Actually, right before this, Zhiyu told his father that he had completely destroyed the Heaven Guild's surveillance barrier. This means teleportation magic works perfectly, without being monitored. Hearing Zhiyu's proposal to teleport directly into the enemy base, the Demon King is instantly intrigued by the bold move, but Aseldra immediately tries to stop him, warning that doing so is too dangerous. Taram agrees, but the Demon King just glares at them coldly, asking if they dare question his royal power. This terrifies them both, breaking out in cold sweat. Taram stammers, trying to remind his father that he is not fully recovered. But his father snaps, shouting at them to shut up. He decides he will teleport straight to Heaven's base on Battle Day to destroy them from within. Back in the present, the Demon King reveals himself and sneers at the terrified crowd. He tells them they will deeply regret coming to this place. His overwhelming aura forces everyone to take a step back in sheer terror. Guilliman snaps out of it first and immediately orders his forces to attack. Meanwhile, Zhiyu has already gathered his own demon army. With one simple command, and the castle gates fly open as the demons charge. The guild members also line up to meet them head-on. A brutal war erupts instantly, but since the demons launched a surprise attack, I know what you're thinking. An easy win, right? With everything going perfectly according to plan. Zhiyu lets out a highly confident, subtle smile, but suddenly Seldra and Taram materialize right behind his back. This unexpected turn spells absolute disaster. Taram grins wickedly and lashes his long whip. Zhiyu cannot dodge in time as the vicious whip pierces straight into his abdomen, burrowing deeper and deeper inside to tear him apart. Seeing Zhiyu completely pinned down, Seldra grabs his weapon. Bo draws his massive blade and charges forward to finish him. Next second, the blade swings down cleanly, severing Zhiyu's head. With a fatal wound like that, even the most insane healing ability cannot save him. Yet seeing that Zhiyu's severed head still has its eyes wide open, they remain uneasy. Only when his lifeless body falls off the castle wall and stops moving. But just then, you and I are about to get a massive shock. Watch closely as Seldra suddenly draws his dagger. He stabs straight at Taram's neck, but luckily Taram reacts fast, dodging just in time to protect his vitals. Seeing this, Seldra giggles and quickly leaps back. To a safe distance, Taram looks at his dagger in shock, gasping, "That is our mother's weapon. We are forbidden to use it." Seldra sneers that we are demons who cares about trash rules. If I take you out here too, I become the sole heir. Now Taram is so furious, he grinds his teeth to dust. Then, with an explosion of speed, he charges straight at Seldra. Seldra meets him head-on, shouting that the moment this blade stabs you, now watch this, your fate is already sealed. Completely. The next second, they clash violently down on the ground. Zhiyu watches their brutal duel and slowly closes his eyes. Suddenly, the ground beneath him is melted by Lingling's magic. She drags Zhiyu aside and pops his head back on, finishing. This she gasps for air, trembling all over, while the demons follow, orders and flank to the rear of the guild. But when they break through, guild members are already waiting, unleashing a heavy strike the moment they see the demons, who just charge right in. And as the brutal clash begins, and we both knew this epic clash would kick off, with Gilman's command, his dragon starts charging a massive fireball and fires it at the demon king, who only mumbles that he hasn't seen dragon breath in a while, then dodges the blast and grabs the dragon's giant head, and with one brutal pull, he rips it right off. Seeing his sheer power, Gilman is too terrified to speak, while the other mages snap out of it and launch a barrage of laser blasts, swallowing the demon king in light, watching the rising smoke. Gilman asks if it worked, but as it clears, everyone sees the demon king has completely transformed. Gilman can't believe he actually changed, just like in the records, as Shrilis gasps that it is the Demon King's ultimate form, leaving the regular soldiers trembling. In sheer terror, Shrilis turns and yells to snap out of it, "Don't let fear paralyze you." But even Gilman, their general, is shaking under that suffocating pressure, while the Demon King stands in the center of them, without an ounce of fear, knowing the only flaw in this plan is having zero escape route, though he can teleport his forces straight to the heart of the enemy base. If they lose, there is absolutely no going back. But as the ruler, he never mentioned this, because that's where we leave it. Maybe Kaila figured that out too. Let's dive back in as Kilman unleashes his terrifying aura, prepping his crew for war. He orders everyone to prepare for battle. Meanwhile, deep in the castle dungeon, Lingling trembles as she reattaches Zhiyu's severed head. Muttering desperate prayers, she flashes back to their bizarre experiment just one day ago. Zhiyu discovered he could easily reattach his own limbs after chopping them off. After arms and legs, he pointed to his head and looked right at her, saying it might hurt a bit, so slice it off quickly. Afterward, he told her to leak a rumor to Syeldра's maid about an assassination plot. That maid immediately ran to warn Syeldra, but Lingling played it perfectly, suggesting Syeldra could just play along and chop off Kaila's head instead. Because even with crazy healing powers, nobody survives a decapitation. With that, their absolute insane gamble began. But pay attention here. His head and body have been separated way too long. Lingling panics, terrified that he won't wake up this time. Suddenly, Zhiyu slowly opens his eyes. Turns out that mana-infused dagger was the problem. It delayed his healing. But hey, he is alive, so none of that matters now. Everything is going exactly as planned. Standing up his very first move, completely shattering his master-servant contract with Lingling. Lingling stands there, utterly stunned by what he just did. He turns and tells her she is finally free. But she doesn't run. Instead, she leaps forward and hugs him, crying her eyes out. Insisting she belongs with him, begging him to take her along. Ignoring her tears, Zhiyu casually pushes her aside and heads for the exit. Now you might think he is safe once he reaches that bright light up ahead. But just one step away from absolute freedom, Lingling suddenly lunges forward. Suddenly, 3 massive lightning bolts crash down from that blinding white light. Lingling quickly raises her hand to block with a powerful magic shield. Through the smoke, 3 masked intruders emerge, human guild members raiding the castle. They knew about this secret escape route and set up a deadly ambush. Locking eyes with Zhiyu, they attack without a single second of hesitation. Lingling blocks the strike again, screaming for him to run. But Zhiyu hesitates. What about you? I am your maid. My duty is to protect you. But Zhiyu knows her limits all too well. She only knows basic barrier spells and cannot cast a single offensive magic. Seeing him freeze, she screams at him to get moving. But Zhiyu just calmly places his hand right on her shoulder, and with one quick toss, hurls her right behind him. Without her shield, the incoming lightning strikes Zhiyu directly. The guild members instantly recognize his face. It is Kaila, notoriously known as the absolute most cowardly and useless demon prince, thinking a simple high-tier spell will finish him off. But Zhiyu knows Kaila never once revealed his true strength to anyone. He hid his power so well nobody here has any idea just how insanely overpowered he actually is. He casually raises one hand. And trust me, you and I are going to love seeing his maid's completely jaw-dropped reaction. All right, let's jump in. Even through his thick mask, you can totally feel this guild member's utter shock. But Zhiyu gives him 0 reaction time. He lunges forward, instantly slamming the guy face first into the cold ground before he can even blink. The pinned guild member tries to cast an even higher tier spell to save himself. But with a sudden squeeze of Zhiyu's powerful hand, his head is instantly crushed to absolute pieces. Watching him delete a high-tier mage in a single effortless strike, Lingling freezes right on the spot, completely speechless. With that guy dead, Zhiyu locks his icy gaze onto the remaining 2. Terrified, the remaining 2 leap backward to create some distance, raising their guard to the absolute maximum. Now watch closely. They don't hesitate at all immediately, unleashing their most powerful high-tier attack, the Spear of Light spell. While it packs a devastating punch, it drains their mana insanely fast, meaning this is their final desperate gamble. Recognizing the deadly spell, Lingling screams at Zhiyu to get back immediately. But her warning comes way too late. 2 blinding beams of light instantly pierce straight through Zhiyu's chest. He can feel the searing energy paralyzing his entire body, leaving him completely frozen and unable to move a single muscle. Seeing this, Lingling turns back, her body shaking with grief. Apologizing for failing to protect him, she watches the guild members sigh in relief as the spell hits. They finally breathe a massive sigh of relief. But they can't afford to waste time, so one of them draws his sword to finish off the pair. The other stops him, saying it would be a total waste to kill them so fast. With a sickening smirk, he walks over to Lingling, lifting her chin with a dirty hand. Knowing exactly what he wants, she fires back with a barrage of curses. Furious, the man draws his blade and presses it against her neck, swearing that he will make her suffer very soon. But before they have their fun with her, they decide to get rid of Zhiyu once and for all, so he won't interfere. Just as the blade is raised to chop off Zhiyu's head, the air suddenly shifts. A strange spike of magical energy ripples through the space around them. In the blink of an eye, the phantom figure of the dying Demon King appears. Shocked by his sudden arrival, Zhiyu quickly asks if the massive battle on the other side is over. But the Demon King tells him to listen carefully. He warns him that his power-hungry son, Selder, will do absolutely anything to take the throne, ignoring their own clan's safety. While Alm has no ambition to become the ruler, Zhiyu suddenly cuts the old king off. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. He doesn't care about their politics. He just wants to know how the king got here. The Demon King looks stunned before explaining that every generation of rulers possesses one final secret technique. In their final moments, they can transfer all their remaining life force and magical power to their chosen heir. Hearing this, Zhiyu's eyes widen in absolute shock. But the old king just keeps speaking as his form begins to flicker. He tells Zhiyu that even though their time together was short, he knows he is the one. There is no doubt about it. Zhiyu is the best candidate to become the next Demon King. A dark, swirling sphere of magical energy begins condensing in his palm. He gently presses the sphere deep into Zhiyu's chest to seal the transfer of power. As the ritual finishes, the fading projection of the Demon King starts to slowly dissolve into nothingness. Meanwhile, at the dead center of the chaotic battlefield, the guild has successfully decapitated the Demon King's real physical body. Beside him lies the cold corpse of his loyal general, a grim testament to the fight. The human guild had to pay an incredibly massive bloody price just to bring down the legendary ruler, leaving them completely exhausted. None of them expected the Demon King to be this monstrously strong. He literally teleported straight into their base to fight an entire army alone, like a true beast. Back inside the prison, having fully inherited the primordial core, Zhiyu instantly shatters the light spears binding his body. And trust me, the sheer shockwave of his awakening power even frees Lingling from her magical bonds. All right, you and I are about to see those two guild members realize they messed with the wrong guy. Feeling that insane surge of power suddenly boiling up deep inside him, Zhiyu lets out a cold, wicked smirk. Now that the mighty Demon King Hail is finally dead and his power belongs to me, this means my master plan is officially an absolute success. Riding the high of his victory, he lightly raises his palm, unleashing a wave of magic many times stronger than before. Seeing the terrifying scale of his power, the two guild members instantly spin around to flee. But Zhiyu has absolutely no intention of letting them escape. Clenching his fist tight, he flashes forward and delivers a brutal punch, blasting them back dozens of meters until they smash into the wall. Instantly, both of them knock out cold. Even though he now possesses Hail's godlike strength, his fragile mortal body can barely handle such raw energy. Still, the great news is he can finally escape this oppressive demon fortress and win his long-awaited freedom. But before he can take even a few steps, pay attention here. A strange blue light suddenly wraps around his body out of nowhere. Lingling immediately recognizes it as a high-level teleportation spell. Seeing his physical form starting to fade, Zhiyu frantically reaches his hand out toward her in a panic. Without a second thought, Lingling leaps right into the glowing magic circle with him. As the array flashes with a blinding blue light, they find themselves instantly transported to a completely unfamiliar land. In utter shock, Lingling asks him how on earth he knows teleportation magic, and how his deadly wounds have all miraculously healed up. Zhiyu calmly explains that he did not trigger that spell. It was actually a protective curse the Demon King placed on all his children to save them if the castle fell. They were likely drifting in the dimensional rift for 3 whole days. His father did this was to ensure they could escape safely when their castle collapsed. Hearing this explanation, Lingling suddenly realizes that Demon King Hail has truly fallen. With deep respect, she pledges to help Zhiyu rise as the next true Demon King, hearing, "I know what you're thinking, a new Demon King." But Zhiyu actually wants absolutely nothing to do with it. However, knowing how dangerously short-handed they are right now, he decides to keep his mouth shut for now. After walking for a while, a massive castle looms in the distance. Seeing this fortress, Lingling's eyes instantly widen in pure horror as she recognizes exactly what it is: the magic kingdom of Alsol. A place where they train powerful mages for one sole purpose: to destroy all demons. To make matters worse, the city is currently throwing a massive festival to celebrate the Demon King's defeat. Fearing their demon identities will be exposed, Lingling quickly casts a powerful transformation spell while Zhiyu alters his own appearance as well. Once they sneak inside, he asks her to explain the lay of the land. She reveals that Alsol is a tiny island nation on the eastern border of Tarua. They are heavily protected by a massive mythical sea creature dwelling in the surrounding waters, which allows their magical abilities to develop at an incredibly rapid pace. Because of this, they've bred countless top-tier sorcerers who have sworn to hunt down demons forever. They are their sworn enemies. After hearing all this, Zhiyu cannot comprehend why his father would teleport him to such a deadly trap. Lingling frantically suggests they flee immediately, but even running away requires a solid plan. So you and I know he has to prep first, especially since mastering magic is his only way out of realizing his grand dream in this dangerous world. Come with me, we are diving into a world where magic literally runs everything. Even the massive buildings here float majestically in midair. He realizes if he can somehow master these magical arts, he could build things way grander than his old game designs, but just as he gets totally lost in thought, Lingling's stomach rumbles incredibly loudly. So they head to a street vendor to buy some famous magical cuisine. But who knew once her mouth starts eating, she physically cannot stop? Anything edible she wants to try. Eventually, they make their way into a local tavern. The crowd inside is celebrating the Demon King's defeat with absolute chaos. A mysterious red-haired woman even buys drinks for the entire room. Seeing free beer, our duo immediately joins the wild party. But after only a few drinks, his head is spinning completely. Now pay attention to this red-haired woman. See how she flashes a suspicious grin. Soon Zhiyu runs outside to barf and Lingling scolds him, saying these humans are celebrating his demise, yet he's happily drinking along. Just as he tries to argue back, a group of people rushes past them, shouting about some brand new S-class quest. Lingling shivers. Hunting down the Demon King was an S-class quest. How is there another one already? Overcome by curiosity, she drags Zhiyu along to check the board. But once they push through the crowd, they find, you won't believe this, but the actual target of that quest. It is him. Furious, he yells out, asking why they won't just let him go. Hearing his loud mouth, Lingling quickly covers his lips in panic. She lies, telling everyone he's just wasted. The crowd shrugs and starts gossiping about it. Isn't Prince Kaila the absolute weakest? This should barely qualify as a B-class quest. Listening to this, Zhiyu quietly pulls her away from the square. He warns her to keep a low profile and call him Zhiyu from now on. She thinks the name is weird, but they quickly pack up to flee. Suddenly, the red-haired woman blocks their path, asking about the new quest. Zhiyu plays dumb, saying they barely glanced at it, but he instantly recognizes her as the generous spender from the tavern earlier. Everyone calls her the legendary Hope of Alsol. She is definitely dangerous, but before he can even react, she suddenly grabs both of them in a massive bear hug, whispering that she had her eyes on them the entire time. She says they smell extremely strange, making him break out in cold sweat. Lingling is absolutely terrified, almost wetting herself. If their secret gets exposed in this magic city, they will be hunted down by powerful mages. But surprisingly, she just assumes they are weary travelers who desperately need a bath because they stink. She even invites them back to her place to wash up. Zhiyu finally breathes a huge sigh of relief, laughing along with her later. And that is where we leave him soaking in a warm, relaxing tub. All right, let's jump back into a world where even the food is made of magic. It truly lives up to its reputation as a magical kingdom. This is exactly the dream game world he always wanted to live in. Meanwhile, in the other room, Lingling is in absolute agony. Sharing a bathtub with Shrilis is a complete nightmare for her. She is struggling hard to maintain her disguise under Shrilis's watchful eyes. You look so incredibly tense. One would think you are a wanted demon. Hearing that, Lingling can only let out a highly nervous laugh, stammering, "No way." But suddenly Shrilis raises her hand, swirling a dense mist in her palm, offering to help her relax. But Lingling immediately recognizes what this glowing gas really is. Holy elemental scent. The absolute worst possible nightmare for any demon. It drains their demonic power instantly. And without magic, her human disguise will shatter on the spot. She desperately prays for Zhiyu to save her. But watch our protagonist now. Zhiyu is just chilling, sipping coffee, leaving Lingling to hold her breath, to avoid inhaling the scent. Meanwhile, Shrilis starts bragging about her past. How she fought brutally in the Great War against the Demon King. She keeps leaning closer. Suffocating Lingling finally stands up to stop her. Making a restroom excuse, she leaps out of the tub and flees. Shrilis smiles, noting her dislike of holy energy. Soon Zhiyu steps out. He bumps into Lingling in the hallway and she rushes right over. Explaining how her disguise almost failed, she recounts the entire bathtub disaster. She begs him to escape. Now you and I both know he should run, right? But instead of fleeing, Zhiyu decides he wants a quick bath first. Suddenly, Shrilis materialized right behind them. Are you two leaving already? Lingling panics, stammering out a terrible excuse to make their escape. Shrilis asks, "Don't you want to try our magical drinks and feast? They are 10,000 times better than those cheap desserts." Hearing this, Zhiyu grows suspicious, yet he boldly accepts the offer. agreeing to taste it. Meanwhile, right outside their lodging, a group of mages gathers. Is there really a demon inside? The leader grins. Not just any demon, but the Demon King's son. We must capture him. Inside, Shrilis pours them 2 special drinks, made of pure holy water. But as demons, they can only stare, shaking with absolute terror. Shrilis then reveals her dark past. To kill the Demon King, she joined the elite human squad Tarukan. She trained like a maniac. As she speaks, she lifts her shirt, showing off the brutal scars left from her grueling training. Seeing the massive wounds, both of them freeze. Then Shrilis wipes her face, revealing another deep scar. In truth, I only have one eye. This revelation leaves Zhiyu completely stunned. He is shocked. Honestly, you and I have to wonder what her real motive is. Shrilis explains that she normally hides all these scars using illusion magic, but seeing them keeps the burning memory of that painful day alive. To defeat the Demon King, we endured brutal training since childhood. For that goal, I basically sacrificed my entire life. But wait, stick with me here, as he suddenly corners Zhiyu, demanding to know what they did. He suddenly pulls up Zhiyu's shirt, sliding his hand upward as he speaks. He mutters suspiciously, asking how there is not a single scar on his skin. It is as smooth as a baby's. Zhiyu can feel that cold hand touching him. The touch slowly begins to dismantle his magical disguise. Then he leans in right next to Zhiyu's ear. Whispering that he is actually a demon, Zhiyu instantly breaks out into a cold sweat. Suddenly, a swarm of rats rushes out from the chimney. The next second, a bright flash erupts, and the rats transform into mages. Seeing this, they realize they are in deep trouble. They fell straight into this woman's trap. Before they can even react, the mages charge forward and completely surround them. But the leader suddenly yells directly at Shrilis. We finally found you, the demon hiding in this city. Shrilis calmly stands up and steps in front of the other 2. Zhiyu realizes these mages are not here for him, and it looks like Shrilis is actually a demon too. Since her identity is exposed, she stops pretending. She summons her staff and unleashes massive magic power. The mages move in. Without hesitation, they launch an all-out attack. But against these weak spells, she does not even blink. As an elite Tarukan mage, she looks down on these weak local sorcerers completely. With a flick of her hand, she unleashes a devastating black orb. The entire room explodes. Now pay attention to this shockwave. It even forces our Demon King heir to back away. As the smoke clears, thick demonic energy fills the air. Lingling shields Zhiyu, stunned by the sheer power. She cannot believe anyone possesses this much raw magical strength. Zhiyu asks why she protected them. She turns, revealing she is the Demon King's daughter, making her his own sister. Soon she leads him directly to a secret tribe. They arrive at the Earth Demon tribe, who instantly bow to their new lord. Walking through this underground city, Zhiyu notices it looks nothing like the demon castle. None of these buildings rely on magic. Instead, they use natural materials. But the truly shocking part is the location. He never imagined a massive city could hide beneath this desolate desert. Zhiyu thanks Shrilis for guiding him here. This is exactly what he needs. These earth demons have the perfect skills to help build his new stronghold. And there is one more elite. I know what you are thinking. And yes, Zhiyu is deeply curious about this warrior. Shrilis starts explaining the warrior's dark past. The human elite squad, Tarukan, invaded this place. While marching toward the demon castle, their leader ordered a brutal massacre. The peaceful earth demons stood absolutely no chance against these heartless killers. Their defenses crumbled, and trust me, you and I will want to see what happens next. Let's dive into when Shrilis was an undercover commander in Tarukan. He spotted a massive earth demon stepping up to protect a group of kids. Gilman stared at him, highly curious, and asked for his name. The beast replied that he was named Douglas. Gilman softly muttered the name to himself. Facing a lethal enemy, Douglas prepared to fight to the death. But unexpectedly, Gilman ordered a retreat back to the demon castle. Seeing his sheer confusion, Shrilis explained that it was actually his courage that saved the tribe. Hearing this, Zhiyu became deeply fascinated by Douglas. A combat-ready earth demon. Now watch closely as he calls the chief over, wanting to meet this Douglas. The chief heard this and advised him to pick someone else instead, explaining that Douglas was incredibly stubborn, but Zhiyu shrugged it off. demanding to be led there. Soon they entered a blacksmith shop, but the moment he proposed they leave together, he was flatly rejected. Douglas said, "Even if you are the great demon king's son, I have no duty to obey you." Zhiyu then asked, "What if I force you?" Douglas turned back to him, saying he would rather die. Zhiyu asked why he insisted on staying. He replied he was born here, so he had to protect his home. He even offered an apology. Seeing his stubborn determination, Zhiyu remembered how he used to desperately grind in the game just to summon powerful elite warriors like him. Left with no choice, Zhiyu sighed and walked away, only to find a wasted Shrilis and Lingling. He was absolutely furious that while he worked so hard to recruit talent, these two were slacking. Honestly, he just joined them. Soon the three of them were completely wasted. Fearing trouble, the chief had them carried to bed, but while he was fast asleep, the closed door was suddenly burst open and several axe-wielding earth demons crept inside. Sneaking up to the bed, Douglas raised his axe high over his head, calling him a coward, then swung it down violently. But right before it struck his head, he suddenly opened his eyes and tilted his head to dodge the strike. Douglas was shocked, and Zhiyu used that split second to leap out of bed. Realizing their cover was blown, the earth demons charged at Zhiyu altogether, but he wasn't surprised, having already sensed something off back at the blacksmith's. First, the binding gear Douglas was making did not look like it was for beastmen. Plus, he had noticed someone tailing him earlier, which forced him to pay extreme attention to his surroundings. Soon he found a faint magical barrier. Pretty clever, right? All right. Let's see how his inherited demon king magic gives him insane perception. Otherwise, he never would have noticed such a faint magical ripple. But there was one specific detail that still felt completely off. Shrilis once mentioned that Douglas was supposed to be protecting dark elves. Yet after searching around this tribe for so long, he had not seen a single one. Before he could process this, a horde of earth demons charged right at him. Zhiyu calmly channeled his mana and dashed forward. He instantly knocked them all unconscious, leaving only Douglas left on the ground. The giant sat there trembling in pure terror as Zhiyu slowly approached him. "You did not protect those elves. It was never about heroism. You just refused to let anyone else take them. You were not protecting them out of any real kindness. Now pay attention here. Watch what he does to this hypocrite. Should we go and disable that magical barrier of yours now?" Zhiyu quickly dragged Douglas out to the crowded main village square. The other earth demons instantly drew their weapons and surrounded him. It was obvious the entire tribe was in on this. The chief ran over, saw Douglas captured, and screamed in absolute terror, asking if they failed. Douglas could only stutter an apology as the hostile crowd started getting restless. Seeing them prepare to charge, Zhiyu immediately raised his glowing light blade. He warned them not to move a muscle, threatening to execute Douglas on the spot. The demons could not believe this kid had actually captured their strongest warrior. To them, Zhiyu was supposed to be the royal family's most cowardly prince. Leaving the plaza, he dragged Douglas straight back to the hidden magic barrier. Under threat of death, Douglas reluctantly pulled out a glowing purple stone. The moment it touched the magic circle, the wall vanished in a flash, revealing a pitch-black cave hidden right behind. Inside were the imprisoned dark elves, and the sight left even Zhiyu shocked. Their physical condition was far worse than he had ever anticipated. Shrilis and Lingling rushed straight to his side after hearing about the ambush. And trust me, what they saw inside would shock you too. Zhiyu urgently asked Shrilis if she could use memory transfer magic on them. She immediately agreed to try, despite the heavy strain of the spell. The fragments might be blurry, but she was willing to make an attempt. As she began casting the spell, a dark elf's memories flowed. The painful memories flooded directly into Zhiyu's mind with overwhelming force. Through these visions, Zhiyu realized this place was a literal hell. These female dark elves were forced to give birth breeding children like livestock. Cruel human nobles would regularly visit this hidden cave to handpick their targets. Any chosen children were immediately dragged away like mere products. In exchange, the corrupt chief received massive bags of gold. The entire tribe was complicit in this horrific slave trade. These tragic kids only learned about the outside world from newly captured prisoners. They spoke of bright skies, blue oceans, and endless freedom. "You and I can only hope he burns this whole place to the ground. Let's jump in." These poor elves were so curious about the world, longing for freedom, that their greatest dream was to give their own children a real chance to escape this dark cave and wander around the beautiful outside land without any fear, to experience the real world. After seeing their sad memories, Zhiyu's teeth grind in pure, unadulterated rage. His fists clenching so hard they shake as he spins around and throws a massive, devastating punch right into Douglas's smug, punchable face. Douglas takes the hit and flies back nearly 8 meters, crashing violently into the stone wall. Shrilis screams in absolute fury, demanding to know, "I thought you were supposed to be protecting these innocent dark elves, but you actually plan to sell them off to the human nobles as slaves." On the ground, the beaten Douglas slowly realizes, now watch closely, because this trash finally stops hiding his lies and admits that dark elves are rare and highly prized, making those greedy human nobles absolutely drool over them. After all, dark elves are a race blessed directly by nature, so keeping them in these perfect conditions will definitely make our lives incredibly easy. Isn't that the perfect reason to breed them like livestock? Hearing this disgusting, heartless speech, Lingling immediately erupts in pure anger, shouting, "How could you dare to enslave our very own fellow demon races?" But Douglas just struggles up furiously, yelling, "The Demon King is dead. If we want to survive under the humans, we absolutely must do this." Hearing his garbage excuse, Zhiyu feels a deep burning rage. Before reincarnating into this fantasy world, he had suffered under his own abusive father's heavy, painful oppression. But these poor children were enduring far worse misery. So without a single shred of hesitation, he calls Shrilis and Lingling right to his side. Now let's finally finish the absolute slaughter that Kerman left incomplete back then. Hearing this, the two girls, who were already completely furious, instantly agree to the fight. Just then Douglas lets out a wild, deafening roar, summoning all the beastmen outside to charge in and surround them. Lingling immediately steps forward to hold the defensive line, while behind her, Shrilis summons her magic staff, shouting, "How dare you filthy mobs raise your weapons against the Demon King's heir?" But the arrogant earth demons mock her. "He is nothing but a useless coward. We have zero reason to obey him." Lingling knocks back several demons and shouts, "Actually, you're dead wrong." Inside the cave, Douglas launches a desperate attack at Zhiyu. But since our main character has inherited them, you saw that right? Blessed with the Demon King's power, he's totally unstoppable now, kicking Douglas away like a piece of trash. The watching dark elves can clearly see that Zhiyu is trying to save them and let them escape, so one brave elf stands up wanting to go forward and help. But another elf quickly stops him, yelling, "Mutu, what on earth are you trying to do? But if we don't do something right now, we will all definitely be tortured for the rest of our lives. I can't bear to live like this anymore." Remembering his dark, painful, torturous past, Mutu drops straight down to the ground, sobbing in utter despair. His heartbreaking crying immediately catches Zhiyu's attention. Hearing all of their deep, incredibly painful and screams, Zhiyu growls, "I'll make you pay for this." But he doesn't expect Douglas to suddenly pull a strange glowing red stone out of his dirty pocket in a panic and swallow it down without a single bit of hesitation. Seeing this, the other earth demons immediately pull out their own matching red stones and swallow them down. Lingling gasps in pure shock. "The earth ore, I truly thought that legendary item was just an old myth. I can't believe it's actually real. Stay with me," because a confused Zhiyu quickly spins around to ask what this crazy item is. Shrilis beats her to it, screaming a desperate warning. "Watch out! Once they consume that incredibly dangerous ore, they will. You and I are witnessing a forbidden skill that boosts strength 10 times, but at a deadly cost. It literally eats away his lifespan." Right as he explains this, Douglas's muscles begin to swell rapidly. With a massive roar, he leaves Zhiyu completely stunned, because it's not just his physical strength that got a massive buff, his magic power is also skyrocketing, surging. But right now, Zhiyu still hasn't fully mastered the Demon King's power. In that split second of hesitation, Douglas's massive fist is already flying right at his face. At this range, dodging is completely impossible. But right at this instant, thick vines suddenly erupt from the ground, wrapping tightly around Douglas. No matter how hard he struggles, he cannot shake them even a single inch. Zhiyu looks over and realizes a dark elf was the one who saved him. The other dark elves panic, screaming that Mutu has just caused absolute disaster, while Douglas turns his head and curses Mutu with pure rage. Seeing his chance, Zhiyu dashes forward, taking advantage of the distraction and violently plunging his magic-infused arm directly into the brute's stomach. Now pay attention, because he actually looks at the dark elf and asks, "What is your name?" "Is Mutu, right? I think I'm starting to like you." Mutu just stands there, completely dazed. Right next to them, Douglas coughs up a massive mouthful of blood, screaming that Mutu is a dirty traitor before letting out a wild cry and shattering the vines binding him. Watching his enemy's body expand even further, Zhiyu feels a chill run down his spine. But with his arm still trapped deep inside Douglas, he can't escape. Forced to take the devastating punch head-on, he gets smashed brutally into the wall, feeling his bones instantly shatter into pieces. But thanks to his insane regeneration skills, he instantly heals. Zhiyu is absolutely shocked that a single magic stone could hold this much insane power. Immediately after blowing him away, Douglas turns around and charges at Mutu, grabbing him by the jaw and hoisting him into the air, roaring that he is going to rip his head off. As his grip tightens, Mutu's neck begins to crack. Honestly, you and I didn't expect this guy to target Mutu. He completely abandoned the fight with Zhiyu just to crush the elf. But now Mutu's neck is about to snap and Zhiyu is still way too far away. Running over is physically impossible, unless he can pull off a ranged attack. Right then, his vision suddenly shifts into a pitch-black space. A dark shadow materializes behind him, whispering that this is his own consciousness. Zhiyu spins around demanding answers, but the shadow asks, "Do you want to save that elf or not?" Even though time flows slower in this mindscape, you still have to act fast. Hearing this, Zhiyu desperately asks if there is any way to save Mutu. The shadow replies, "You are still not ready to wield the full strength of the Demon King, but as your mind and body sync up, more power will naturally unlock." Zhiyu snaps, telling him to skip the explanation and just reveal what power he can use right now. The shadow replies, "You are still weak, but there is one specific skill you can use. Trust me, you and I are about to see a legendary bow flash in his hand, and then, all right, stick with me here." They said they'd meet again soon. They even whispered his real name, leaving our main character completely stunned. Hearing that name made Zhiyu's heart shake violently. Before he could ask any questions, he was suddenly pulled right out of that dimension and back to reality, holding a glowing blue bow in his hands. Without losing a second, he pulled back the string, aiming at Douglas. Sensing the massive surge of magic energy, Douglas gasped in pure shock. He instantly recognized that legendary bow. But during that split-second distraction, Mutu sank his teeth deep into his hand and summoned vines to erupt from the dirt, while Zhiyu finished charging, his ultimate shot launching a glowing magic arrow right at Douglas. Upon impact, blinding blue fire exploded everywhere. Now watch this part, because even Zhiyu didn't expect this insane power. In mere seconds, Douglas was completely incinerated, reduced to ash. Staring at the bow, Zhiyu couldn't help but wonder about that mysterious shadow. Meanwhile, at the cave entrance, Lingling was locked in a brutal battle against hordes of earth demons. Shrilis couldn't use massive spells in this cramped cave, so seeing their struggle, Zhiyu took aim once more, letting loose a volley of arrows. With rapid whooshes, he fired 7 or 8 shots in a row that locked onto their targets as if they actually had their own eyes, landing clean in their skulls. Shrilis cheered, thrilled by his new ranged power. Within moments, the remaining earth demons panicked and fled for their lives. Examining the magic ore, Shrilis noted its power was completely off the charts. "And I know what you're thinking." Finally, he sets the dark elves free. He warns them to never get caught again, leaving the stunned elves asking if this is real. Zhiyu smiles, confirming that they can leave with their children and start over somewhere safe. Overwhelmed with emotion, the dark elves immediately fall to their knees to thank him. Shrilis sighs, mentioning she wanted to recruit the demons, but that's impossible now. Hearing this, Zhiyu walks over to Mutu. "You weren't born here, right? You were brought here as a slave." Mutu nods. "You don't have any family either, do you?" Mutu whispers, "Yes, then come with me. We need someone who can guide us through these lands." But Mutu panics, stammering that he isn't a demon and doesn't know maps. He trembles, saying he is useless. Zhiyu tells him to relax because he's an elf blessed by nature and he already proved he is braver than anyone when danger strikes. That's more than enough. With a warm smile, Zhiyu extends his hand out to him. Looking at that open palm, Mutu drifts back into his memories. He can't even remember his parents. Abandoned and captured by monsters, he expected to rot in this dark hell until he died. And that's where we leave it. Someone is actually offering to save him. Stick with me here. Our crying dark elf stammers, asking if he can follow Zhiyu, who just shakes his head. No, you are not here to follow me. Instead, you walk right beside me. With that settled, the group continues their journey. But before they even set off, Lingling runs up to Mutu with a fierce glare. She tries to scare him, declaring that, as the new guy, he answers to her. Shrilis then suggests finding a river first. They need water. Muto, being an elf, immediately steps up and points out a direction where he smells water. Hearing that, Lingling smirks and tells him he actually has some skills after all. Just like her, she boasts. Meanwhile, Zhiyu asks Shrilis why they even need a river. Shrilis explains that traveling on foot is too slow. They need to find mounts near the water. Behind her, Lingling suggests capturing a dragon, but Shrilis tells her to stop dreaming. A unicorn would be lucky. Now pay attention, Zhiyu actually agrees with them, and they head straight for the water source. At the exact same time, not very far away from their current position, two unicorns are peacefully drinking from a creek when they suddenly freeze in terror. Their eyes are filled with pure panic, and the moment they realize what's coming, they do not hesitate for a second and flee the area instantly. Right after they escape, a massive creature lands right there. The footprints left behind by this colossal beast are nearly 2 meters wide. This monster is a legendary wyvern. Completely unaware, Zhiyu and his crew are still marching. Lingling is still loudly bragging about catching a dragon. But just as they move out, a mysterious white-robed woman arrives at the Earth Demon Tribe ruins. The last survivor screams out for help the moment he spots her. You and I both remember this white-robed woman. She is Kudali, the tracking magic expert. Her squad recently wiped out countless demon tribes, but still failed to find Zhiyu. Kudali realizes that with multiple targets running, her tracking spells are getting completely scrambled. Karuka scoffs at this explanation. How could so many royal demon children survive that brutal war? Is there really no way to tell who the real Kaila is? Nearby eating a piece of meat. Audria groans. We cannot possibly hunt down every single target. But Jillian coldly cuts her off. We have no other choice but to slaughter every demon across this entire continent. Is there a faster way to scout their locations? Kudali frowns deeply. If I go alone, I can teleport across short distances to speed up the hunt. Deed stands up, saying they will just follow behind her and clean up the bodies. With their plans set, Kudali slowly stands. Her eyes glow with a bright blue light as she prepares to move. She vanishes instantly. Reappearing at the ruins, she begins searching for clues. There she detects a faint trace of Zhiyu's residual magical energy. The trembling demon on the ground desperately tells her everything Zhiyu did here. Kudali asks coldly, which way did he go? The demon whimpers that he does not know, begging her to save him. But in the next split second, a lethal beam of light pierces his skull. And that's where we leave them, with Kudali tracking our main character's exact scent. What do you think happens next? All right, you and I are about to see Zhiyu finally track down that vital running stream. He praises Mutu, calling him a true elf for smelling water from kilometers away. Lingling rushes over, instantly warning Zhiyu not to let this success go to his head. But after traveling so long on an empty stomach, his own belly starts loudly growling. To save face, Lingling boasts about her top-tier fishing skills, telling them to wait just a moment and they will have delicious grilled fish. But before she can even finish her sentence, a wild fish leaps straight out of the water and lands right into Mutu's arms. While everyone stares in complete shock, Mutu explains he used nature's force to guide the water. Seeing Mutu steal the spotlight so effortlessly, Lingling feels a massive wave of insecurity. She tries to help build the campfire, but Shrilis beats her to it, summoning a massive flame. Now she really feels completely useless pretty soon. Now pay attention while they feast on grilled fish. Zhiyu notices Lingling sitting there, looking totally dejected. He asks if she is all right, but she claims she has no appetite. Immediately, Shrilis snatches her portion away. Even so, Zhiyu sees how sad she looks, so he casually mentions that just eating fish is not enough, wondering if there is fruit nearby. Lingling instantly brightens up, promising to find some. Mutu offers to use his radar ability, but Zhiyu stops him. And before they know it, Lingling has already bolted into the woods. Shrilis sees right through Zhiyu's little plan and leans in close, teasing that he is surprisingly sweet. Once she leaves, Mutu mentions seeing a unicorn. During his childhood, right now, he can smell their scent nearby. Zhiyu mutters to himself that if only they could actually capture a real dragon like Lingling suggested earlier. Shrilis sighs, telling him there are absolutely no dragons in this area. Deep in the forest, Lingling spots a tree loaded with fresh apples. Desperate to be useful, she leaps forward without even looking at the ground. But get this, just as she reaches up to grab the fruit, the ground starts shifting. A massive tremor shakes underneath her. She looks down and spots a giant glowing eyeball staring right back at her. Glancing around at this colossal beast, she realizes in sheer terror that she is standing directly on a sleeping dragon. Meanwhile, back at the campfire, Zhiyu and the others are discussing Mutu's natural powers. Mutu admits he cannot explain it in words, but he can clearly sense everything within range. Hearing this, Zhiyu realizes this ability works exactly like a classic minimap game system. Shrilis adds that it is a legendary skill for locating dungeons. Mutu notes his current range is quite limited. Zhiyu asks if it can upgrade, and Mutu mentions a legend about eating the core of a 1,000-year-old dragon to boost his power, expanding his sensory radar by several hundred times. Hearing that crazy number, Zhiyu freezes in shock. Shrilis warns him that dragons are incredibly rare and almost impossible to find. And even if they found one slaying, it would be completely out of the question. Zhiyu asks if they are really that strong, and Shrilis confirms, and trust me, you and I are about to see how they handle the ultimate apex predator. Stick with me, did you know? Dragons absolutely detest demons. Only a tiny fraction of humans with incredibly powerful mental strength can actually tame them. What a massive, massive irony that the capable of taming these legendary flying beasts are actually the weak and be human. Shrilis tells everyone to stop worrying because there is absolutely no way they would ever run into a wild dragon here. But the exact moment she finishes saying that, they see Lingling running towards them, screaming her lungs out, and there is a massive dragon chasing right behind her. They all freeze in sheer panic, but once they snap out of it, they do not hesitate for a single second and instantly turn around to run for their lives. What is going on? Didn't you say this place was totally impossible to find dragons here? I do not know what is going on either. I have never in my life seen a dragon this incredibly huge. Meanwhile, Cutely detects their presence and arrives in the area, but stops in her tracks when she hears a roar in the distance. Now pay attention, that massive roar stops her cold while Zhiyu and his gang keep running until they spot a giant boulder and quickly hide right behind it. Failing to find them, the dragon begins looking around everywhere for them. Seeing that they have truly vanished, it finally turns and leaves. Once they are sure the giant dragon is gone, Shrilis, furious, turns directly to Lingling and demands to know what on earth just happened. I sent you to pick fruit. How did you bring back an entire dragon? Mutu observes that, based on the beast's massive size, it must have lived for over 1,000 years. Zhiyu gasps, realizing what that actually means. But before he can finish, Cutely cuts him off and says that it means the dragon does not have an insight stone inside its body. Hearing this, he turns around. Exactly. This is a great opportunity. But as she speaks, the four of them stare at Cutely, fall completely silent. Shrilis is the very first one to recognize her, reacting immediately. She is from the White Ta. Rukan. Hearing those shocking words, everyone immediately jumps back to put some distance between them. They draw their weapons and get ready for a battle. This powerful woman, and yeah, I know what you are thinking. This is Cutely, a key member of the elite squad who is rumored to be an incredibly ruthless and notorious mage. Hearing this, Zhiyu quickly backs away to keep his safe distance. He originally thought that after the Demon King passed away, he could finally flee the castle and live a peaceful, quiet life. But seeing how incredibly tense they are right now, Kudli casually tells all of them to just calm down and says there is absolutely no need to fight here. Hearing this, Zhiyu feels incredibly confused. Then Kudli looks directly at Shrilis and tells her that she should already know that fighting here is completely and utterly pointless because I only need a single spell to wipe all of you right out of existence. Shrilis does not even try to argue. She just grits her teeth, knowing deep down that this woman is definitely not bluffing at all. Hearing this, Zhiyu quickly turns to Shrilis and asks if she is really telling the truth. Shrilis replies that this woman is definitely not exaggerating her raw power, and that she is indeed much stronger than all of us put together. Hearing this, Lingling completely panics and cries out, "What in the world do we do now?" Kudli says, "As long as you come back with me quietly, so I will temporarily spare your lives." Zhiyu then asks where she wants to take them. She calmly replies, "You will meet my Captain Jillian." The instant Shrilis hears that terrifying name, her entire body immediately breaks out in a cold sweat. She never expected the leader of humanity's absolute strongest squad to actually show up here. Meanwhile, Zhiyu naturally knows very well, and trust me, you and I both know going back means absolute death. All right, let's jump in as he draws his bow to fire, but Kudli slowly raises his hand to summon a magic shield. Shrilis quickly raises her staff to blast him, triggering several massive explosions. But Kudli easily blocks every single attack, spotting an opening while their enemy's vision is blocked. Mewtwo channels his natural radar powers. Suddenly, thick giant vines burst right out of the ground, wrapping tightly around Kudli's legs and quickly spreading all the way up his entire body. Lingling also coats her palms in raw magic and charges straight ahead. Unable to fight from afar, she gets close to slam the barrier. Seeing this, Shrilis screams for her to get back immediately, but it is already far too late. Kudli condenses a sharp ice crystal between his hands. With a massive blast, he shatters the vines trapping him, sending Lingling flying backward from the sheer force of the impact. Then he casts another spell, coldly declaring that he only needs to bring their corpses back. With that, massive magic circles appear behind him, and countless ice spikes begin shooting out of them. Shrilis quickly raises her staff to shield everyone, but look closely. Those ice spikes are coming down like rain, hitting the shield like rain. Seeing Lingling manage to slide inside at the last second, Zhiyu finally breathes a small sigh of relief. With tears in her eyes, Lingling apologizes, crying that she is always so useless. Shrilis screams at them to find a way out because this shield will not hold for long. Zhiyu asks her if she knows any counterattack spells. Shrilis replies that even if she did, her power is nothing compared to Kudli. Meanwhile, the ice spikes in the air grow more numerous and fly even faster. Within moments, tiny cracks begin to spread across the surface of the shield. At this rate, in less than a minute, they will be turned into Swiss cheese. Let's see what Zhiyu does next. Suddenly, his eyes light up. He remembers that mysterious shadow in his consciousness. If he can enter that space again and speak to him, he might unlock another broken skill. He clenches his fists and forces the magic power inside his body to run absolutely wild. Shrilis notices this and yells, demanding to know what he is doing, warning that releasing raw power inside the shield will make it shatter instantly. But Zhiyu ignores her warning completely, shouting in his mind for the shadow to show up. Meanwhile, the giant dragon, who could not find them and was heading back to sleep, hears a loud rumbling sound not far behind. Back on the battlefield, Kudli senses the unmistakable power of the Demon King radiating from Zhiyu's body. It seems this immense power only reveals itself when he is pushed to his absolute limits. He finally understands why they could not track him before. With a cold laugh, he fires his ice spikes even faster. Inside the shield, Zhiyu tries desperately to enter his consciousness, realizing the shadow only appears when he is on the brink of death. Just then, the shield shatters under the overwhelming barrage of ice spikes. Death is staring them right in the face. But in the nick of time, the giant dragon from before suddenly flies back, interrupting Kudli's spell. but this time it just glares down at everyone, without attacking. Let's find out together what this beast does next. Alright, stick with me here. Our hero weaves hand signs, unleashing another wave of sharp ice spells. But as the deadly ice spikes rain down, the massive dragon spreads its wings to shield them from the blast. It tucks them safely underneath, bringing its colossal face right up to Zhiyu, locking eyes with him. In that split second, a rush of strange and ancient memories flood directly into Zhiyu's mind, showing a mysterious female demon riding high on the back of this very dragon, soaring freely beneath the blue sky. As the blurry image sharpens, Zhiyu is shocked to realize this demon is actually his own mother. The pair lived a peaceful, happy life together in the deep woods. Once the vision fades, Zhiyu looks up and shouts, asking if the beast actually knew his mother. The giant dragon just stares back in silence. After a long, quiet standoff of about 10 seconds, the beast suddenly opens its massive jaws. It spits out a glowing crimson orb. Reflexively, Zhiyu reaches out and catches the mysterious object. Confused, he asks what it is. The ancient beast finally speaks, its voice heavy and deep. It tells him it is the Stone of Insight. But why hand over such a priceless treasure? The dragon warns there is absolutely no time left to explain, telling him to quickly hide his magic and escape from this dangerous place. With that, the dragon whips around and unleashes a massive blast of fire at Kudeli. Faced with the blazing inferno, Kudeli is forced to halt his offense. He quickly conjures a magical barrier to block the heat. A legendary dragon defending a group of demons. Now that is truly bizarre. Zhiyu realizes that in their current state, they stand absolutely zero chance against a high-tier mage like him. So utilizing the precious distraction bought by the giant beast, the group quickly turns on their heels to escape. Kudeli spots them fleeing and prepares to strike, but the dragon instantly anticipates his move. He senses the danger, and in the very next second, the creature unleashes an even thicker torrent of deadly dragon breath, forcing Kudeli to prioritize defense. Now watch closely. He reinforces his barrier, slowly opening his tightly shut eyes. His eyelids part slowly, revealing a cold, menacing glare. Suddenly, a colossal glowing ice magic circle begins to materialize directly above his head. As his eyes snap wide open, a massive jagged iceberg slowly emerges from the center of the magic circle. Seeing the massive iceberg, the dragon's pupils shrink in terror. In that final instant, its fading mind drifts all the way back to those beautiful, peaceful days spent with his mother. But before he can dwell on the past, the ice mountain crashes down violently right on top of him. Hearing the deafening, earth-shattering roar from behind, Zhiyu glances back and you can already feel the dread rising in his chest as the beast gets brutally impaled by the jagged ice, collapsing near death. Kudeli lands softly beside him, demanding to know why. It would throw its life away just to protect a group of filthy demons. With the dragon refusing to speak, the mages reaches out to forcefully extract its memories. But the proud, noble dragon immediately sees through his cruel intentions. Before the mage can even touch him, the dragon ignites its own life force, roaring that one day he will deeply regret all the horrible things he has done. With those final words, the massive beast turns to ash. But its sacrifice bought them valuable time. Zhiyu and his companions manage to escape far away, knowing that as long as he suppresses his Demon King energy, Kudeli will have no way to track them. Frustrated by their escape, Kudeli clenches his fists, muttering a dark incantation before raising his hands high, unleashing a massive swarm of glowing, tracking butterflies. And that's where we leave things for now. Having barely escaped Kudeli's deadly search, Shrilis, "All right, you and I need to hear this dragon's shocking backstory." Zhiyu explains that the dragon's memories showed it actually knew his own mother, Lingling. Shrilis is completely shocked. Dragons and demons are supposed to be mortal enemies, never allies. But what else was hidden in those memories? Even Zhiyu doesn't know the exact details. He could only feel a deep sense of happiness between them. On top of that, the dragon left behind a glowing red bead. They quickly realize it is a genuine dragon stone of insight. The queen basically saved them. Zhiyu stares down at the rare stone in his hands. He wonders what kind of past his mother shared with this dragon. After a moment, he decides to pass the Stone of Insight over to Mutu. Shrilis then urges Mutu to absorb it immediately. Since the elite white Tarukan squad is tracking them, they watch closely here. Mewtwo stares at the priceless stone of insight in his hand, deeply hesitant. He says it is far too precious, but Zhiyu steps forward to cut him off immediately. Nobody else can use this. Just swallow it. With no other choice, Mewtwo stops arguing. He pops the stone in his mouth and gulps it down. Immediately, his pupils dilate. His jaw drops as his head snaps back. A bright red light erupts from his eyes, and the dragon's memories flood his mind. As these foreign memories play out inside his head, Mewtwo sees that the dragon was treated like a human lab rat since birth. The humans conducted brutal, agonizing experiments on it, never caring about the immense pain the dragon suffered. Every single day, more agonizing wounds were carved into its flesh, and as generations of human researchers passed, they kept slicing the dragon's body to absolute shreds just to use its body parts for tests. Whenever the beast neared death, human mages would heal it up, only to start the cycle again. Centuries passed. Eventually, the dragon's spirit was completely broken. Can you believe that? But right when the dragon completely gave up and waited for death, the legendary Supreme Demon King Turku launched a brutal full-scale invasion against humans. During one of those chaotic battles, the very laboratory was bombed and destroyed. For the first time in hundreds of years, it finally saw daylight. Without a single second of hesitation, it fled that absolute living hell. Soaring into the sky, it finally tasted true, unrestricted freedom. After flying for several days, it located its fellow dragon kin. It exposed the humans' sickening, horrific cruelty to the entire clan and begged them to team up with the demons to overthrow the cruel human empire. But shockingly, not a single one of its kin believed its story. Why? Because at that time, the Dragon Clan had already formed an incredibly close, peaceful bond with humanity, even helping them fight off the demon race. Because of this, almost none of the dragons realized that the only reason humans became so close to them was entirely because of the countless tragic secret test subjects who were sacrificed. Humans experimented on captured dragons just to copy their power. Over time, humanity fully mastered the dragon's unique magical spells. When the dragon revealed this ugly truth, it was shunned and cast out instead of trusted. Desperate, it tried seeking refuge with demons, only to be cursed at and hunted away. This left the poor beast completely isolated, belonging to absolutely no one. It was neither human nor demon, and that's where we leave this tragic soul cast out by everyone. For the longest time, he couldn't understand why he even existed. But stick with me, because his lonely life was about to change. He cut himself off completely, hiding in dark, filthy corners with only loneliness. That was until he met a young demon girl named Kaila. The moment she saw the massive dragon, she called out. She called him Mama, leaving the giant beast completely stunned. Kaila burst into tears, running over to wrap her arms around his snout. Seeing her sob, the sweating dragon nervously told her he wasn't her mother. Yet, from that exact day, the dragon finally found his purpose. Once she calmed down, he acted. Using memory transfer magic, he peeked into Kalista's tragic past. While he had been tortured by humans, she was experimented on by demons. These cruel demons analyzed dragon magic through brutal testing. They wanted to modify that power to enslave the entire dragon race. The moment Kaila hatched from her egg, they dragged her straight to the lab. Among all subjects, she had the highest potential, possessing incredible magic. She could cast advanced dragon transformation spells right at birth. Now watch closely as the demons push things way too far. They intensified the experiments, putting her through constant, agonizing torture. Every single second was pure agony. In total despair, she miraculously unlocked a legendary teleportation spell. Her own wild magic threw her into a completely unknown land. She wandered while weeping until she finally stumbled upon the lonely dragon. Deeply moved by her tragic story, the giant beast paused in thought. He gently repeated that he could not be her mother. Instead, he told Kaila she could call him Master from now on. Hearing this, she beamed and happily called him Master. From then on, the dragon taught Kaila everything he knew. He taught her how the world works and how to survive. As she grew, he passed down all of his magic to her. During those peaceful years, the two lived a joyful, fulfilling life together. The deep scars of their pasts were slowly healed by each other. But peace never lasts, does it? One day, Kaila returned, but the dragon stared blankly and yelled. He demanded to know who she was and why she was there. Terrified and confused, Kaila froze as he roared. Without warning, he unleashed a devastating blast of dragon breath. Callista scrambled desperately to dodge the lethal flames. Dragons should live forever. But the brutal experiments he endured had severely shortened his lifespan. He could not enjoy the long life of his kin. His mind was failing, plagued by sudden bouts of severe amnesia. Snapping back to reality, he tearfully apologized to the shaken girl. Callista looked at him with deep worry, asking what was wrong. And trust me, this tragic turn of events is only just beginning. Let's dive in. He had to leave before completely forgetting Callista. Leaving without a goodbye, the dragon flew off, leaving Callista, crying her heart out. The dragon found an empty wasteland, quietly remembering their past, while waiting for death to arrive. Then just a few days ago, he suddenly felt it. Callista's magical signature. Drawn in by this deep, familiar energy, he followed the trail. The moment he saw Zhiyu, a flood of lost memories returned. That is why he was willing to sacrifice his own life to protect Zhiyu. Because seeing him, everything clicked. He knew this boy was the son of his beloved disciple. And through those shared memories, he glimpsed Callista's face once again. But she was no longer the crying girl, but a mother. Now watch how Mutu reacts. He felt her pain, deeply, tears welling in his eyes. It felt like waking up from a very long dream, but he couldn't recall what happened in it. He quietly told the others the ancient dragon passed away, peacefully. It seems he died protecting Zhiyu. Meanwhile, Mutu, fully absorbed, the Stone of Insight. Though he cannot expand his radar range immediately. It will take time. But without his radar, our team could easily walk straight into dangerous human traps. So Zhiyu had Shrilis lay out a world map. Red marked the old demon territory, while blue showed human lands. They were currently standing right on the border of both. You and I can see his logic here. Heading south seemed perfect. But Lingling was confused. Shouldn't they head west into demon territory? Zhiyu, however, believed his father sent him to human lands for a very specific reason. Otherwise, they wouldn't have met Shrilis undercover. Althor definitely had some hidden agenda, probably predicting the demon castle's fall. He foresaw the human invasion. Shrilis nodded, confirming his theory. After the demon king fell, almost all human forces entered demon territory, taking full advantage of the chaos. Lingling argued they should go back and rally their forces, but if they return now, the other demons will never listen to him. He's already branded as a cowardly runaway. With that reputation, he has zero authority right now. Lingling turned to Shrilis. Isn't she also the Demon King's daughter? Shrilis explained that since she worked undercover for so long, nobody except the Demon King could ever prove her royal bloodline. Plus, she spent a decade undercover slaying plenty of demons. So Zhiyu decided their absolute first priority is to build a dungeon base and rack up major achievements. That way the other demons will follow him willingly. Everyone agreed. Trust me, you and I are about to watch him build an empire. Let's dive right in as our main character, Zhiyu, vows to prove he is worthy of being the Demon King. He goes back to scanning the map, desperately searching for the perfect spot to build his new secret stronghold. That is exactly why he is heading south, but a massive problem is blocking his path. Elite human hunters are tracking his every move, and right now, he cannot even hope to fight them. He is completely outmatched, meaning he needs fresh intel to survive and analyze this dangerous situation. Luckily, this new world shares an insane amount of elements with the fantasy game he designed. From the magical spells to the monster names, everything feels incredibly familiar to him. He starts believing that if this world is truly connected to the game from his previous life, he can use his status as a demon prince to secure every resource he needs. His game developer knowledge will let him draft the ultimate survival strategy. Meanwhile, pay attention here. A brutal battle erupts in a nearby village with terrified demons begging for mercy. They scream that they will join the humans, but before they can finish their plea, a monstrous beast swallows them whole. The person controlling this giant creature is none other than Died, a member of the elite Tarukan squad. The furious village chief rushes over, screaming that they surrendered and begging to know why, as the humans are still slaughtering them. But mid-sentence, Adelia swings her massive battle axe, instantly slicing the poor chief right in two. With every single demon wiped out, Akka prepares to report their success to the captain. But turning around, Kudeli's magical projection suddenly flashes to life. He reports that a sudden dragon attack saved the targets, but he has sent tracking butterflies out. Hearing this, their ruthless leader Gilman speaks up, realizing that their current location is extremely close to the demon territory. He doubts Zhiyu would ever flee back to a war zone, meaning they must immediately march to Kudeli's exact position. Days later, as the group flees, Zhiyu notices a sudden biting chill in the air. Srilis explains that they have been traveling south for an entire week now, so freezing weather is only natural. Zhiyu quietly hopes they won't cross paths with the deadly Tarakan squad again. You and I both know that peace never lasts. Suddenly, their unicorn mounts grind to a halt. The beasts refuse to take another step forward. Muto uses his natural elven connection to sense their fear. They refuse to go because the creatures know they cannot survive the brutal freezing climate waiting ahead of them. Understanding the situation, Zhiyu signals Mutu to thank the loyal creatures and send them off. As they leave, Lingling shivers violently. In this extreme cold, neither humans nor demons can hope to survive. Yet Zhiyu smiles, finding this harsh environment absolutely perfect. Meanwhile, Kudeli's magical tracking butterfly spots the retreating unicorns on their way back. He finds it incredibly strange since these creatures naturally despise the biting cold. Why would they flee from the deep south back with Zhiyu? He spots something ahead. An isolated frozen island looms ahead. Liking the layout, he asks Mutu to scan the area, but the dark elf can only sense natural elements, not living beings. Srilis then spots a wrecked abandoned ship on the shore. She deduces that no living soul has set foot here in ages. And that's where we leave them, heading into a frozen land to build an unstoppable new fortress. All right, let's look at this. They're about 200 meters away from the island. Though it's close, the waters are incredibly deep. The waves are violent, and any invaders would be spotted instantly. Before long, they reach a massive cave carved into the cliffside. Before stepping inside, Zhiyu has Srilis cast a powerful illusion spell at the entrance. Now from the outside, it looks just like an ordinary stone wall. Once inside, they don't walk very far, before encountering a fork in the path. Zhiyu immediately asks Mutu to use his radar abilities to scan ahead. Mutu reports that there are 2 narrow passages ahead, each opening into a wider room. After that, the tunnels narrow down once again and merge into a massive central hall with an even more hidden chamber deep inside. As he explains, now pay attention here as Mutu draws the map. Zhiyu starts making a plan. Zhiyu decides they should split up into 2 teams to explore both sides and finally reunite in the center room. Hearing this, Srilis clings tightly to Zhiyu, insisting she wants to go with him. But Lingling also demands to tag along, arguing that the 2 strongest fighters should split up to handle any sudden danger. Srilis realizes she's right and heads down the other path with Mutu. Stepping into the dark tunnel, Mutu spots strange, faint glowing lights overhead. Srilis explains that these are light stones created by fusing ice and light magic, and the fact that they're still shining today means they were crafted by an incredibly powerful wizard in the past. But right after saying that, she stops. And yeah, check this out. She turns to Mutu and says she still doesn't trust him. She only tolerates him because Kaila chose him, but she doesn't make friends easily. Mutu lets out a tired sigh, knowing he can't win her over so easily. If you won't accept me as an ally, just treat me like your slave instead. Srilis stays completely silent for a long moment, before muttering that she doesn't like him. She walks off while on the other side, Zhiyu and Lingling inspect another glowing stone. Lingling rushes forward to protect him, full of overprotective energy. Zhiyu wonders how someone can be so innocent. Suddenly, he hears a squish ahead. He looks down and finds actual slimes creatures he had only ever seen in games before. To his surprise, they look alive, squishy, and way cuter than they ever did on screen. Zhiyu is tempted to reach out and pet one, but Lingling moves first. She steps in and obliterates the cute slime with a massive punch, and literally tears it into a million tiny pieces. She turns back to Zhiyu with a proud, excited smile on her face. Zhiyu is totally stunned. Is she really waiting for him to praise her? To keep her happy, he forces out a compliment. But before she can celebrate, the ground beneath their feet suddenly begins to violently shake and rumble. The loose rocks nearby instantly pull together, forming a massive stone golem. Zhiyu yells to fall back, but she doesn't listen, stepping right in front of him to block the monster. She gets sent flying by one punch, and trust me, you and I need to see what happens next. All right, you and I are about to watch one impossible fight as Lingling stands back up. She gathers raw magical energy into her palms once more. Charging forward, she strikes, but the result is exactly the same, absolutely zero damage to the beast. Sent flying by a brutal counterpunch, she somehow forces her breaking body to stop sliding, holding back the agonizing pain. Standing as a shield before the monster, Zhiyu screams out, demanding to know why she is doing this. Why push herself so hard? Lingling looks back with absolute seriousness. If I back down now, I am no longer worthy of being your loyal maid. She grits her teeth so hard they might shatter. Her mind drifts back to the past, to the very first day she entered the terrifying Demon King's castle. Little Zhiyu was crying his eyes out. He ran straight to his father, begging to make her his friend. But the Demon King just laughed. Is this a joke? A servant is just a servant. He demanded they finalize the pact. Zhiyu had to bind Lingling to a master-servant contract, too weak and terrified of his father to refuse. He simply dared not fight back. Yet after the dark magic bound them, Lingling did the unexpected. She looked up and thanked him. Now pay attention here. She saw that Zhiyu wanted to treat her as an equal, a real friend. Not just some slave to order around. For once in her miserable life, she felt truly recognized as a real human being. From that defining moment, she swore to work herself to the absolute bone to serve him. She vowed to turn this gentle boy into the greatest demon king the world had ever seen. But as the years dragged on, she realized he was just a fragile crybaby. Constant beatings from his cruel siblings left him near death. And if he dies, she dies with him. The rules of their contract meant his death would instantly trigger her own execution, so she had to act. To force him to grow strong, she put on a mask of cold, ruthless discipline. But even it failed to cure his deep cowardice, and because of her association with this weak prince, she became the prime target for the other maid's cruel bullying. She was forced to eat nothing but the disgusting cold scraps left behind by others. Splashed with boiling wastewater, her nights were spent shivering on the freezing floors of stables and pig pens. Yet the torture did not stop there. Other servants would drag her out to torment her whenever they pleased, finding sick joy in it. If another high prince so much as looked at her, his servants would beat her. Can you believe this? Her daily life was turned into an absolute living hell. Around that dark period, her love turned into a bitter, burning resentment. Bound by that cursed soul contract, his inevitable death meant her own immediate demise. If they were both doomed, she figured she might as well end both their lives herself. But the very moment her sharp dagger sliced open his main artery, his terrifyingly powerful healing factor instantly kicked in, closing the fatal wound, instantly leaving her in a state of absolute shattered horror. She could not even choose her own death. And there he was, just weeping like a child, continuously apologizing over and over. But then, seemingly overnight, she realized he had transformed into a completely different person, standing up to his tormentors with total confidence, unleashing a massive, overwhelming wave of raw power that finally brought her cold, dead hope back to life. For the first time, she saw a future demon king. But a new worry began to plague her. She felt like she had contributed absolutely nothing on this dangerous journey, acting as a useless, heavy burden to him. So what do you and I see next? Her refusal to ever drag him down again. Dashing forward like a flash of light, she drives both her hands directly into the golem's neck, forcing them deep into the stone joint as she pours every drop of her magical energy inside. All right, you and I are about to watch our maid absolutely crush it. She rips the golem head clean off as she lands. Watching this, Zhiyu is completely stunned. He never expected Lingling to unleash such a wild, devastating amount of raw combat power. Lingling slowly stands up, looking right back at him. Tears well up in her eyes as she whimpers, saying she never wants to be abandoned. But just as Zhiyu steps forward to comfort her, that headless monster, golem suddenly starts moving again, completely defying death itself to launch a surprise attack. Lingling hears the danger and panics. She desperately tries to dodge, but her exhausted body has absolutely zero strength left. At the absolute last second, things get desperate. Zhiyu clenches his fist, channels his magic, and unleashes a massive palm strike right into the golem. The beast takes the full impact of the blow and stumbles backward onto the floor. As it collapses, Zhiyu rushes over to catch Lingling's falling body, calling her a total idiot for being so incredibly reckless. How could I ever abandon you? An amazing servant like you deserves to stay. Hearing this, Lingling looks up blankly and whispers, Master. Zhiyu gets a bit smug, telling her that if she ever tries to run away, he will hunt her down. He orders her to stay by his side forever. Now watch closely. She immediately starts to sob loudly and throws herself directly into his arms, crying her heart out in his chest. Zhiyu recalls the old host's memories and realizes her deep loyalty and feelings are completely genuine. This bond is absolutely real. For their future survival, he vows to make her the strongest servant possible. Meanwhile, in a completely different dark tunnel, our magic sister Shrilis makes a discovery. She spots some glowing treasure and immediately grabs a necklace, putting it right onto her own neck. She eagerly asks Mutu if she looks pretty, but he just gives her a flat, expressionless nod saying yes. This makes Shrilis pout in absolute disappointment. She thinks he is being way too lazy. If Lingling were here, she would be showering her with non-stop compliments. Shaking it off, she walks a bit further and notices a pile of glowing items on the ground. Shrilis runs over to inspect them, realizing that these are actually massive piles of priceless, glittering jewels. Celebrating her find, Mutu suddenly calls out to her from behind with a warning. Thinking he wants a piece of the action, Shrilis snaps that she is definitely not sharing any of this loot with him. Mutu can only sigh in disbelief. He asks if she is truly clueless. You and I both know she is about to deeply regret ignoring his warnings. Shrilis has no idea what he means. But before she can even speak, the bracelet on her hand suddenly starts tightening at lightning speed. And the necklace around her neck begins to rapidly shrink as well. Realizing she has fallen into a trap, Shrilis panics and screams in her mind that this is bad. She turns around only to see a massive, terrifying monster slowly emerging from the darkness. She knew something felt off about this shiny treasure from the start, but she never expected a giant treasure spider to be hiding here. Terrified, she screams at Mutu in total panic, asking why he did not stop her. He calmly replies that he assumed she had a clever plan all along. With that, he immediately summons thick defensive vines to block the incoming attack from the furious treasure spider. Normally, a low-level monster like this would be absolutely nothing for a skilled mage like Shrilis, but now her hands are bound tightly, making it impossible for her to grab her magic staff. Because of this desperate situation, her only hope of survival lies entirely on Mutu saving her. Trying to save her pride, she yells that she was only pretending to get caught. It was all just a test to see what you would do. Now that I am trapped, show me your skills and pass this test with everything you have. Hearing her ridiculous excuse, Mutu steps forward, drawing his dagger. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see how he fights next time. Come along with me as a heavy clang strikes her bracelet, leaving not even a single scratch. Shrilis warns that items made by the treasure spider cannot be destroyed by any physical attacks, and before he can even react, the monster opens its maw and spits out a massive stream of green slime. Leaping backward without a second thought, Mutu grabs Shrilis to retreat. Shrilis quickly warns him that it is highly concentrated acid, and if they get touched, they will melt instantly. Mutu dodges frantically while asking what they should do. But in all the chaos, his foot gets tripped by a loose rock, throwing Shrilis out of his arms, while the spider catches the perfect moment and fires a web so blindingly fast, Shrilis cannot even see what hit her before being pinned to the wall. Now pay attention here, because the beast lunges right in front of her. Raising its sharp claws, it thrusts forward, but thankfully Mutu leaps in at the last second, blocking the strike with his own body to save her. Right after, he quickly draws his dagger and slashes across the spider's front claw. The severed limb makes the monster shriek in pain and back away, while Mutu seizes the brief opening and, gritting his teeth, pulls the sharp claw free, spinning around to stab it straight into Shrilis's magic binding bracelet. With a sharp snap, the indestructible bracelet breaks. But as the spider recovers from the pain, it roars and charges forward once again at a speed far too fast for Mutu to evade. He has no choice but to take the brutal hit full force. Yet even so, Mutu stands like an absolute wall right in front of Shrilis, refusing to budge. Now that her hands are finally freed, Shrilis instantly summons her magic staff. With a dark, furious face, she points it directly at the spider as purple magic gathers and fires a devastating beam of light. The second the beam hits the creature, it erupts into violent flames, turning its entire upper body to ash in seconds. Meanwhile, Mutu can no longer hold himself up, collapsing heavily onto the cold ground. Let's pause for a second. How did he even know that the spider's claw would break the spell? Mutu wheezes out his guess. The spider's own body must be completely immune to its own magic. Srilis sighs, telling him that if he had guessed wrong, he would have lost his life right there. But Mutu looks up and says he doesn't care about dying because she had ordered him to give it everything he had. Staring at him, Srilis is completely stunned. It instantly reminds her of her brutal training days back in Tarakan. Back then, even when a sword pierced her body, she grabbed the blade with bare hands and looked up at her opponent with a savage grin. In the very next second, she sliced off his head. It was exactly this fearless, life-risking attitude that caught the instructor's attention. He warned her that if the blade had hit her heart, she would be a corpse, but Srilis had replied with the same cold indifference to death because he had ordered her to kill the opponent with everything she had. Impressed, the instructor passed her on the spot. Now looking at Mutu, Srilis sees a perfect reflection of her younger self. Just like her old instructor, she looks down and tells him that he has officially passed the test, welcoming him as a true comrade. But she warns him to be careful and not die so easily. She stresses that this is a direct order. Mutu promises to remember. Not long after, Zhiyu finally reunites with Srilis, and Zhiyu shares that he had to go up against a massive golem on his end. Srilis says they fought a treasure spider. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. So you and I are back in this bizarre dungeon as Zhiyu looks around. He notices the layout actually resembles the Demon King's castle a bit. But wait, there are clear traces of human building techniques here too. What really catches his eye is that massive statue standing in the center. The chest sitting right below it looks completely out of place. It is super suspicious, but as Lingling heals nearby, she spots it. She gasps, wondering if it is a treasure chest, making Srilis super excited. She praises her and immediately charges straight for the box. But right then, the statue's eyes suddenly flash with gold, and Zhiyu quickly grabs his bow. Watch closely now. He draws his bow before it is too late. He fires just as the statue shoots 2 deadly lasers from its eyes. Luckily, his magic soldier blocks the strike, saving Srilis from a terrible fate. She wonders if it is the trap, and Zhiyu yells, "Is not that obvious?" Before he can even finish, the statue fires again, while Srilis dodges. She summons her magic staff while Lingling and the others watch the fight start. They try to get up and help, but Zhiyu orders them to stay back. He warns they will only get in the way. Mutu sits back down to heal, but Lingling snaps at him, asking if he is really not going to help. Mutu explains that his life belongs to Srilis, so he cannot die easily. He must focus on recovering as ordered, leaving Lingling with no comeback. She can only sit and heal, while Zhiyu fires multiple magic arrows. He tells Srilis to attack the main golem while he draws its attention. You and I both know it is never that easy. A shield blocks it. Srilis waves her staff and fires off a massive fireball, but the statue blocks it easily and shoots more lasers from its eyes. Srilis gasps in shock because this golem is using multiple spells at once. It has both defensive shields and offensive lasers. Zhiyu is completely baffled. How can a statue do that? Srilis explains there are 2 options. First, an advanced mage set this up. Or second, there is something active inside the statue casting the magic. Yes, a hidden core might be pulling the strings from within. Zhiyu quickly asks Mutu if he can scan the statue. Using his natural radar power, Mutu probes the golem's inner structure. He discovers that it is completely hollow. This confirms Srilis' second theory. Something is definitely hiding inside. As more lasers shoot out, Srilis quickly summons a shield. She shouts that they must break its defense first. She tells him to try, but Zhiyu is highly skeptical. If her magic cannot break it, how can he? Suddenly, more stone statues jump down from the walls to attack. Even worse, a giant treasure spider emerges right next to Srilis. She instantly unleashes a burst of flame magic at the beast. But get this, the fireball does absolutely nothing to the Spider Queen. And trust me, we are about to find out exactly what she realized. All right, let's jump right back into this chaotic fight as the spider attacks. While dodging those razor-sharp front claws, Srilis feels a deep anger building inside. If she were not trapped inside this cramped cave, she would have already unleashed a massive spell to wipe them out completely. On the other side, Zhiyu is not doing any better, taking heavy hits and getting pushed back over and over again. Sure, he could easily destroy these nasty creatures if he used his Demon King powers, but that would create massive trouble. It would instantly expose him to the dangerous elites hunting him. The elite Tarukan squad would track him down. Left with no other choice, he looks at the central statue. He notices that ever since these monsters showed up, the statue has completely stopped. It stopped attacking. Could it be that all of its magical energy is currently being used to control these beasts? Meaning the statue itself is currently defenseless and has no way of launching any more of its own attacks. Now pay attention, these beasts only showed up the moment Shrilis told Zhiyu to attack that statue. Maybe the statue sensed an immediate threat from her words and reacted to defend itself. So it summoned these monsters to protect itself. Zhiyu quickly yells to Shrilis that their main target is still that giant statue standing right in the center. He needs her to buy him a little bit of time. Shrilis asks what he's planning to do. But even though she asks, she does not stop casting her powerful spells for a single second. She immediately conjures a massive blazing wall of fire. The fire blocks all the incoming golems. Zhiyu takes this chance, kicks hard off the ground, and leaps forward. He flies straight toward the statue, guessing that since it cannot attack, its protective barrier must also be completely down. That protective barrier of theirs has to be completely inactive by now. Zhiyu throws an incredibly powerful punch, and it connects directly with the massive stone body of the statue. But he hits it with so much raw force that he smashes through the stone and slips right inside. And get this, those monsters don't even follow him. Instead of stopping Zhiyu, the giant golems turn around and charge straight at Shrilis, while the spider from afar turns back and rushes into the statue. Seeing this, Mutu suddenly realizes what is happening. It seems only small creatures like that spider can actually fit inside. Just as he says this, two massive golems spot them, but with both of their injuries still healing. Fortunately, Shrilis quickly steps in to summon a magical shield. With a loud echoing boom, the massive golem slams its fist directly against her protective barrier. Shrilis tells Lingling and the others not to panic. Right now, they just have to trust Zhiyu. Meanwhile, deep inside the hollow statue, Zhiyu looks up and sees a mysterious glowing orb, guessing that must be what controls the entire statue. He quickly pulls out his bow and aims, preparing to destroy it once and for all. But before he can even fire, a sharp hiss echoes, and he is suddenly wrapped up completely in the sticky webbing spat out by the treasure spider. Because of its smaller size, the beast easily squeezed through the hole to follow him right inside. Outside, Shrilis is taking a brutal beating from the golems and is reaching her absolute limit here. She screams for him to hurry up, but Zhiyu is completely trapped in the sticky webbing and cannot move. On the top of that, the giant spider raises its razor-sharp claws, getting ready to slice him apart. Just as Zhiyu feels he has absolutely no other options left to survive, and must resort to using his Demon King powers, a voice in his mind screams at him. With that furious shout, he is pulled back into his inner consciousness once more. Inside his mind, the shadow angrily points and demands to know why he is letting such a weak monster beat him. Trust me, the tension is unreal. Why let such a weak beast defeat you? Zhiyu immediately roars back, demanding to know why. Hasmanan, he is only showing up now when he was so close to dying just a moment ago. Let's dive in as the mysterious shadow calls Zhiyu an idiot, leaving him completely confused. Why not use his taming power? Even the weakest host can easily control low-tier beasts like this. Hearing this, Zhiyu completely freezes up. Could it be that old master-servant contract he signed with Lingling as a kid? The shadow scoffs, calling him an absolute idiot. Naturally, hearing himself insulted like that makes Zhiyu's blood boil. Zhiyu immediately snaps back, refusing to take the disrespect, which only makes the dark shadow sigh in defeat. He explains that Zhiyu carries the legendary ancient blood of the Demon King. He explains that every single Demon King possessed the innate power to command demons, fueled entirely by their own burning, intense desires. As long as that desire is strong enough, the power manifests. Still lost, Zhiyu asks how he actually activates it. The shadow explains that he must force his enemies to submit to his sheer will, unleashing the primal greed deep within his blood. Listening to the explanation, a sudden spark of pure realization finally ignites deep inside Zhiyu's mind. He realizes his true identity. As the rightful heir to the Demon King, every single monster within his reach should belong to him, and only he has the power to lead them to victory. They will conquer everything with that thought. Now pay attention here. He can feel a massive seal inside him finally breaking. As the seal shatters, Zhiyu snaps back to reality, his left eye flashing with raw power. A brilliant purple light erupts from his eye, and the giant guardian spider instantly freezes in its tracks. And right on cue, the glowing blue crystal resting quietly on the spider's head begins to slowly shift to purple. Deep inside his mind, Zhiyu lets out a dramatic roaring declaration. I, Zhiyu Kaila, the glorious descendant of the great Demon King, will enslave you once again. I declare that from this very moment your soul belongs completely to me. With that, the crystal on its head glows a deep brilliant purple. The deadly front claws raised in the air freeze completely. At the same time, a magical system interface pops up right before him. The massive treasure spider gets sucked into the very first slot. Staring at the floating screen, Zhiyu quickly realizes exactly what he is looking at. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. It is literally a video game inventory. He can feel a direct magical connection now. This giant, terrifying beast is completely submissive to his every command and belongs entirely to him. Meanwhile, back on the outside, time is running out as Shrilis's protective barrier is about to shatter. Wasting no time, Zhiyu commands his new pet to sprint straight up toward the very top of the massive statue. Realizing he is running out of time, he leaps off the beast, landing right in front of the swirling blue energy core. Without hesitating, he activates his taming skill on the core once more. A second later, the crystal on top of this energy source also begins its slow transformation, shifting from bright blue to deep purple. In no time at all, it becomes his loyal subordinate, just like the giant spider outside. All of those massive stone golems that were relentlessly battering Shrilis's shield suddenly freeze, completely paralyzing mid-swing. Safe inside the barrier, Lingling stands there completely clueless, having absolutely no idea what just went down. But Mu-Tu is the first one to spot Zhiyu's shadow. Look up. Everyone immediately follows his gaze, only to see Zhiyu sitting casually on the giant spider's back beneath the massive statue. He is holding a squishy, glowing purple slime in his hand. Who would have thought that this dungeon's legendary final boss was literally just a tiny slime? It must have been heavily reinforced with some extremely high-tier magic. Interestingly, this is actually his very first time touching a slime since arriving in this fantasy world. The soft, bouncy, jelly-like texture in his hands feels exactly like he always imagined it would. After listening to his quick explanation, a shocked Shrilis admits she has never once heard of such an overpowered taming ability. And that's where we leave it today. Trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Zhiyu is completely stunned. He declares that this entire dungeon is ours. Trust me, building our ultimate base is about to get way easier. Afterward, Zhiyu names his newly acquired slime stone. Right next to them, Shrilis pouts, demanding her own pet from Zhiyu. How does he control demon cores? They are both royal heirs, so why can only he do this? But Mu-Tu senses danger, warning that this slime was created by a high-class mage. But where did that creator go? Lingling points out the ruined corridors and the heavily damaged golems, suggesting that the creator fled ages ago. Shrilis, however, believes they died fighting the human alliance. As they debate this mystery, now look closely at Zhiyu here. He is totally lost in deep thought. What puzzles him most is that shadowy figure in his subconscious. Without that shadow, he would have died several times over. He desperately needs to summon him again, but finding clues is proving completely impossible. So he decides to stop overthinking for now. After all, their absolute priority is constructing their underground fortress. Once stone is subdued, Zhiyu gains full authority over the dungeon. Every single monster in this place is now his to command. To guard against Tarakan scouts, he deploys watch guards in every corner. He secretly sets up a web of guard beasts around the island, placing spiders at the gate, gargoyles in the tunnels, and positioning his elite golems next to the treasure spiders. Mu-Tu stays to guard the main hall. Zhiyu then walks over to the chest. Watch what happens when he hands Lingling these daggers. Shrilis notes these blades will amplify her demonic energy drastically, meaning she will no longer have to coat her bare hands in dangerous energy just to fight. If she masters these twin blades, her combat power will soar to an entirely new level. Lingling silently vows to train relentlessly, wanting to protect herself from human threats. Next, Muto pulls a peculiar wooden shield from the very bottom. Lingling scoffs at it, calling it a cheap, worn-out piece of junk. But Mutu disagrees entirely. The surface remains strangely damp, pulsing, with raw, natural energy. Seeing this, Zhiyu immediately awards the shield to Mutu. Srilis grabs a spell book. As Zhiyu hesitates on his weapon, she points to a glowing sword and tells him to choose that one, since its magical output is absolutely massive. Zhiyu glances at the massive sword, but his gaze quickly shifts to a sword with a purple hilt. In a flash, he grabs it, declaring his choice. Srilis asks in confusion why he would choose that. One, since it seems like the weakest weapon here, they have no idea that the real reason Zhiyu picked it is because it looks just like the weapon he wielded in his past game. It's like reuniting with an old friend. Pretty cool detail, right? Let's dive right in as Zhiyu starts mapping out his ultimate underground stronghold. But since this icy island is incredibly barren, they only have basic soil to work with, along with plenty of rocks and water. Using Mewtwo's expert building knowledge, they begin designing a highly defensive structure, while Srilis uses her magic to fuse the materials and build. By blending the architecture of the demon castle and Al Sol, this underground fortress is built despite the terrible conditions. It might be a harsh place, but it is Zhiyu's very first handcrafted stronghold, and quite possibly his last. With the main hall finished, Zhiyu pulls out the slime core, asking if it likes this new home as it bounces around happily. Zhiyu smiles with relief, but watch closely. A mysterious blue butterfly is hovering above. It is a magic scout. While back in Al Sol, mages are frantically rebuilding the completely ruined city. Inside the palace, the elder expresses his deep gratitude to Hayden, but Hayden snaps that it is no time for pleasantries. After all, who knew that a proud province like Al Sol would face such absolute humiliation, leaving the elder deeply ashamed. He stammers an apology, explaining that everyone was distracted by the festival, but Hayden cuts him off in a rage. He barks in fury, demanding to know how a kingdom famed for top-tier magic could get completely wrecked by a traitor and the weakest prince of the Demon King. Furious, Hayden orders a gathering of their strongest elemental mages to receive the king's enhancement stones, promising that he will personally train them. But the city elder stammers, asking why their own mages must fight when the elite white Tarukan is already involved. Hayden sneers, pointing out that even the elite squad hasn't located the targets yet. If our mages find them first and wipe them out, they can finally restore Al Sol's utterly ruined reputation. I know what you're thinking. But the elder just stammers again, warning that the enhancement stones carry devastating, deadly side effects. Hayden scoffs, mocking the old man for worrying about such petty details, before suddenly lifting his hand using raw magic to suspend him in the air, asking if he has forgotten who made him. I am the very person who put you in this high position, and since I put you up there, I can make you disappear without a single trace. I need solid results to keep getting the king's royal support, so shut your mouth and gather those elemental mages immediately. After warning the elder, Hayden walks alone through the city plaza, knowing deep down that if White Tarukan catches the targets first, he will likely be executed. So he has to beat them to the punch. Suddenly, a mysterious figure in black approaches, asking Hayden if he is searching for Zhiyu. Before Hayden even answers, the stranger quietly promises to guide him straight to them. Meanwhile, back on the island, Lingling and the crew have finally found a chair for Zhiyu, who wonders if this seat is a bit too grand and luxurious. People might mistake him for a demon king. But trust me, his maid is about to make things way crazier. He is destined to become, all right? Stick with me here. Srilis declares that only this kind of throne is worthy of our future demon king. But right now, they only have fish. As the demon king's heir, he needs to maintain a balanced diet. Hearing this, Lingling instantly slams the table, shouting that Zhiyu actually needs to eat some actual food, volunteering to head out even further to go hunt. But Zhiyu shuts down her proposal immediately, explaining that doing so could easily expose them to the White Tarukan. It is just too dangerous. Although he says that eating fish for days has made Zhiyu sick of it. He wants to throw up and desperately craves some real meat. That's when Mutu stands up and says he can hunt for animals nearby. But Shrilis asks him with absolute doubt, pointing out that this place is surrounded by water. Where would any other animals be? Mutu then leads them to an open clearing. He pulls out his shield and explains to Zhiyu that he recently discovered this shield actually possesses its own life force, allowing him to sync with the shield using his unique elf power. Hearing this explanation, Zhiyu instantly realizes he is using the shield to root underground and search for hidden animals. Now watch closely. This is basically like underground fishing, and to succeed the root system must move silently and slowly slide. Just like that, 2 hours pass by and they still have absolutely nothing. 4 hours pass and they still have nothing. It is not until 6 hours pass that Lingling finally loses her patience and asks Mutu if this thing actually works, right? At that moment, Mutu seems to detect something, his pupils contracting instantly. In the next second, he grips the shield with both hands and pulls with all his might. Instantly, a giant mole-like beast is dragged out of the ground. Shrilis gasps in shock, realizing it is a massive mole, and even praises Mutu for doing an amazing job. Hearing Shrilis praise him for the very first time, Mutu's face actually turns a little red. But Zhiyu stares at this monster and has the same question we do: is this even edible? Lingling sees they actually caught something and realizes she is about to lose to this newcomer Mutu yet again. So she rushes over, lifts the mole onto her back, and promises to turn it into a delicious feast. But once she ties it up, she hits a massive snag because she realizes this mole's skin is way too thick and her claws cannot pierce it. She initially wants to call Mutu for help, but stops in her tracks, realizing that if she cannot even handle a simple task like this, she will definitely disappoint Zhiyu. So she pulls out her newly obtained dual daggers, following what Shrilis told her before, and she begins channeling her own magic directly into them. But halfway through, the 2 daggers start floating upward, completely out of her control, and they begin rapidly draining all the mana straight out of her body. But when she desperately tries to throw them away, they seem to be glued directly to her hands, fusing with her skin. Lingling instantly realizes that if this keeps going, she will be completely sucked dry. Meanwhile, Shrilis is sitting on the sofa, closely studying the mysterious magic book from the chest. Trust me, it changes everything. Stick with me, we can tell this spell book was crafted inside a dungeon. It contains ancient secrets about the dungeon and the basic laws of its magic. But even though these are just basic spells, Shrilis notices something incredibly strange. She spots several bizarre words she has never even laid her eyes on before. She cannot even begin to guess the power of the person who wrote it. Suddenly, a loud, terrifying scream from Lingling echoes all the way from the kitchen. Mutu jumps up to investigate, but Shrilis stops him cold. She insists they should let Lingling handle the situation completely on her own. But she was just screaming. Shrilis shrugs and says she is only cooking. Meanwhile, inside the kitchen, Lingling struggles to stand as her mana gets drained. Pay attention now as she desperately fights with everything to stay upright. She tells herself she must find a way to control these twin daggers. Suddenly, she recalls the magic lessons Zhiyu took back in the castle. She used to secretly watch from the side to learn how to support him. She had memorized every single lecture down to the absolute smallest detail back then. She knows there must be a way to control these daggers in those memories. Suddenly, a crucial lesson flashes in her mind. The instructor once said that while magical weapons are incredibly powerful, they are completely useless if the wielder has no strength to control them. To truly master a magic weapon, you must first understand its inner core. To avoid being consumed by your own magic, you must mold that energy into the exact shape you desire during combat. Normally, people only release a tiny fraction of their internal power. But with absolute intense focus, you can pull off absolute miracles. Clinging to this, Lingling concentrates, trying to align her magic with the daggers. She forces her energy to manifest outwardly. Then she regulates the output, molding it into the shape of the blades. And yeah, I know what you are thinking. She actually synchronized with them. But she knows this level is still far from enough. Pushing past her limits, she unleashes the maximum magic her body can handle. With a wild scream, she fiercely drives the dagger straight into the giant mole. Its rock-hard hide is instantly shredded like wet paper by her strike. Lingling stands there, frozen in shock, realizing she actually succeeded. The weapon has finally stopped draining the life out of her body. As she pulls the blade out of the monster, a glowing aura wraps around it. It swirls gently around the blades. She feels completely connected to her weapons now, totally at peace. Meanwhile, outside the kitchen, Zhiyu is starting to worry about her long absence. He gets up to check on her, wondering if something went wrong. Just then the door swings open, and Lingling walks out holding a plate of steaks. Zhiyu immediately asks her about the screaming he heard earlier. She breaks into a cold sweat, desperate to hide her struggle. So she lies, and trust me, we both know she got away with it. Srilis even notes her speed was 10 times faster, asking if she has a rare blade talent, asking if it increased tenfold, and if he had a special talent like sword key control, leaving Lingling completely stunned. Trust me, what does he mean? Hearing this, Srilis immediately raises his magic spellbook, which happens to have a detailed record of this very subterranean mole. According to the text, the outer skin of this beast is incredibly tough and thick. It says they are virtually invincible underground, with only one major weakness. Only a swordsman master capable of channeling powerful sword energy can pierce their armor. Hearing this, Lingling blinks. She admits that the beast's hide really felt as solid as cold steel. Hearing this, Mutu steps up and genuinely praises Lingling for doing such an amazing job. Zhiyu also reaches out, gently pinching her cheek, and tells her she did absolutely fantastic. He adds that he is really going to enjoy this delicious meal. These words instantly make Lingling blush a bright crimson as she feels completely validated and deeply appreciated by Zhiyu. She silently vows to train even harder, capture Zhiyu's heart, and help him become the true ultimate demon king. Now watch closely as our sweet maid grows. Srilis wears a proud, warm smile, but he suddenly recalls their fierce battle against the earth demons during the dungeon raid. Throughout that entire underground battle, he was utterly useless, unable to render any aid to his allies due to the tight space. But being unable to cast wide-range spells in tight spaces is no excuse. That is precisely why he must master high-level spells that can function flawlessly in any combat scenario. Over the next few days, Srilis locks himself in his room, dedicating every waking moment to mastering these new spells. He knows very well that the previous Demon King sent Zhiyu to Arsor specifically for Srilis to guide and support him. But if the elite squad of White Tarakan manages to track them down right now, his current power level makes it extremely difficult to even keep himself alive. Therefore, his immediate goal is to break through to become a Tier 4 mage, especially since their deadly pursuer Kudeli has almost certainly reached the legendary level of a Tier 6 mage by now. Thinking of this, he pulls out a glowing earth ore, the very substance those demons consumed to rapidly multiply their power. However, they had to pay with their own lifespans. To get strong quickly and complete his mission, Srilis must make a choice. He decides to swallow the dangerous ore to fulfill his duty, but right in that moment. And yeah, this is where things get crazy, as the nearby grimoire suddenly bursts with blinding gold light. Sensing the strange energy, he turns around, and his eyes widen in pure, unadulterated shock. The magical spellbook is actually flipping through its own pages before he can even react to this. Bright golden energy erupts from the pages, resonating intensely with the magical aura surrounding his body. After exactly 2.5 seconds of intense resonance, the swirling gold light condenses into floating, glowing characters. Staring at them, Srilis realizes these are the exact same mysterious runes, the very ones he couldn't decode earlier. Suddenly, a beam of pure golden light shoots straight out of those hovering letters. In the blink of an eye, the beam blasts directly into his lower abdomen. From such a ridiculously close distance, he has zero time to react. Srilis is completely unable to dodge the impact. As the blinding light strikes his body, his consciousness is immediately dragged away into darkness, into a vast empty void. He looks around the endless darkness, completely confused, when a mysterious figure clad in black suddenly appears behind him. A dark witch stands right there, whispering that he possesses the primordial power of the Demon King. Through endless cycles of reincarnation, he has finally arrived at this destination. Srilis silently wonders about this mysterious power. If inheriting a small fraction of his father's grand demonic energy is what caused the legendary spellbook to react so strongly, he asks her, "Who are you? Are you a loyal follower of the great Demon King here?" But the mysterious witch calmly shakes her head. Confused, Srilis asks why this ancient grimoire would respond to his demonic mana in the first place. The black-robed witch replies, Batum, that she was once a loyal subordinate to the continent's one and only true god Turku. Shrilis is utterly shocked. Wasn't Turku the former supreme demon king? The absolute strongest being on the continent back then. And trust me, you and I just met the follower of the continent's strongest creature. All right, you and I are about to see a meeting that feels like absolute destiny. She had already waited here for countless years, and after a brief pause, Shrilis asks if this dungeon was indeed built by Turku. The witch explains that they traveled across many lands back then and left powerful dungeons in all of those places, so that future generations could experience the true trial. Hearing this, Shrilis instantly realizes their arrival was no accident, begging the witch to join them and lend her strength, adding that the demon king had already fallen in battle, but the witch reveals she is not a living soul, but a magical projection activated by conditions. Because of this, she can only help the one who woke her. Now pay attention here, because Shrilis doesn't hesitate, immediately demanding to know how she can get stronger, so she can protect Turku's bloodline. The witch actually deeply admires this incredibly straightforward request and tells her that while she can help a mage breaking through their spell rings, must rely solely on themselves within this abyss, letting the crushing pain of death consume every inch of their flesh. Only those who endure can forge true rebirth. I know what you're thinking, but Shrilis instantly kneels, begging for this terrifying chance. Once it begins, the pain and will feel like 14 agonizing years in reality. If your will falters, you will face absolute death. Hearing the word death makes her flinch, but remembering the demon king and Zhiyu, she screams, if I cannot protect the demon king's heir, then my life has no meaning. Start the trial now. The witch slowly raises her hand, weaving a magic circle, saying, Excellent, I feel your resolve, and will now tear apart your entire magical foundation using my own mana to rebuild you. The moment she speaks, a bone-shattering agony instantly explodes through Shrilis's entire body. The sheer dread is unlike anything she's ever faced, but her absolute devotion keeps her from blacking out. As she slowly adapts to the agonizing trial, the witch, and trust me, you're going to want to see her endure pain 10 times worse than before.